Okay, thanks.
Hi. Is it 6:30 on the dot?
6:30. Yes,
Yeah,
it
Okay.
is.
6:30.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Community Board 3's June 2021 full boards meeting. I am not able to chair tonight's meeting, so in my absence and in Larissa Scheinberg's absence, Eric Diaz, our second vice chair, will chair tonight's meeting. Thank you all very much, and happy election day. It's primary day, guys. Thanks so much. Thanks,
Okay.
Eric.
Bye.
You got it from
Thank you,
here.
Alicia. Thank you, Alicia. Jackie, do you want
Yes.
to start us off with some of the Zoom etiquettes for tonight's meeting?
Sure. Thank you, Eric. So good evening, and thank you for attending Community Board 3 Full Board. Please use the chat box to sign in. Please sign in with your name and affiliation if applicable. And during tonight's meeting, our chat will be used for signing, material distribution, and technical assistance only. And if you are experiencing any technical issues, please reach out via chat and a facilitator will assist you. And to reduce the background noise, so please stay muted unless you are recognized to speak. During public session, people who have signed speaker forms will be called on to speak for 2 minutes. If there are multiple speakers, 4 people per side may speak on the issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. So I will go ahead and start the public session. I have with me the speaker forms that were completed. Our first speaker up will be on, we have 3 for the 109 Ludlow Street agenda item. And the 3 speakers that will be calling up, the first one will be Alice O'Malley. Alice O'Malley. Afterwards will be Irit and DM. So Alice O'Malley can be given the access to speak.
1 second.
Sure, no problem. Let me know when it's ready.
Just can you say her name again? Alice O, is that, I think
Alice, let's see in the chat. I think she's
she's Alex
written
O,
something.
right?
Alice
Yes.
O'Malley, correct.
Hi, it's Alice. Alice O'Malley. I'm a Ludlow Street resident, long-term Ludlow Street resident. I spoke at the subcommittee meeting. I'm going to pretty much reiterate what I've already said, which is we're way oversaturated. We don't have any quality of life down in the Lower East Side in Hell's Square, as it's referred to. I've lived there 27 years. I'm going nuts. I can't even walk my dog in the evening because the sidewalks are packed or people are drunk. Everybody is, the motorbikes are, it's insane. Now, I don't know the applicant. I have no history with him. I do know he has violations or complaints in his other locations. But really, it's just that we are so oversaturated, we can't take another 3-floor, 220 capacity nightclub / restaurant. They say restaurant, but it's open till 4 in the morning, so anything goes. We have way too many bars, 100 and some odd liquor licenses. And if you go above Houston, you'll see there's a different standard that it's not as densely saturated with liquor licenses and people are given an earlier closing time. We saw this in the subcommittee meeting in which this license application was heard. An applicant on the corner of Avenue A and 3rd wanted a 10-foot bar with a theater, you know, very low impact, and they were given midnight closing. So why do we get the 4 a.m.? Also, by the way, 109, we asked for 2 nights, 4 a.m., Saturday and Sunday. Mind you, I don't even want them to open at all. They asked for 2 nights. Michelle on this board bumped it up to 3 nights, Thursday. The applicant didn't even ask for it. Okay, so this is the kind of disregard we're getting in a community that's unlivable right now because of the board's decision to give us so many liquor licenses.
Yeah, Alice, thank you for those public remarks. Duly noted, is captured in the minutes for tonight's meeting. Our next speaker that's given another 2 minutes will be IRIT, I-R-I-T. I-R-I-T. If you're with us, you can, Jackie, let me know if you find that, I-R-I-T.
I already found it, and
Perfect.
I think, yes.
Yes. Hi, this is Irit Houvras. I'm a longtime resident. I've lived on Essex Street for 22 years. I live just around the corner from 109 Ludlow, which was just approved with a 4 a.m. closing with DJs and a 220 person capacity. This is a huge capacity for a small street. A venue with 3 floors and 3 bars. This approval comes despite the oversaturation of our neighborhood and the current unlivable conditions, which is known by everybody on the committee and everybody in the community. This approval comes despite no benefit to the community, regardless of the 500-foot rule. This approval comes with no consideration of the applicant's truthfulness in their application, as demonstrated by the dwellers research, which was provided in opposition. Research that indicates the applicants as high risk and includes operating outside the license stipulations, outdoor music, ticketing for music events. My understanding is live music is not permitted on the street and definitely not scheduled and ticketed live performances. History of 311 calls, COVID violations, et cetera, et cetera. I don't think a 4 a.m. closing is consistent with an operator intent on opening a restaurant. This operator does not have a history of holding to stipulations. We all know stipulations are hard to enforce. And you've now placed the burden on us as community members to police the stipulations and make sure the business complies. We are so tired. We're tired of showing up at committee meetings. We're tired of doing the work of the community board. Please make things right for us and reconsider your decision.
Thank you. Thank you, Irit, for your remarks. Okay, the next speaker will be DM on the 109 Ludlow agenda item. DM, D-I-E-M.
Hi, yes, thank you very much for that. We just want to stress a couple of things. This license that was approved was egregious at this point in our community. A 3-floor, 220 capacity venue with an adverse history and an applicant that was not forthcoming of his own operations and his own violation history, and that was not the violation history that was also not shared by the committee with the committee. If a restaurant doesn't, he asked for security guards, he asked for all these things, which would have been red flags to any other community or any other community board across this the city to know that this would not be a restaurant. So that first out the gate is an issue. But what we provided which should have been provided at the committee by the chair at that point and other committee members, was the long history of violations at this place, from this operator that range from almost $30,000. To accumulate that many violations, you're doing something wrong. I won't go over all of the violations, but there's things like falsified information to the SLA, overcapacity, not following stipulations, like the list goes on and on. The fact that this committee decided to give us this high-risk operator in a high-risk area in a problematic venue and say that it's going to be a restaurant and say that's going to be good enough for us, but then give us the burden of policing a restaurant when we know this is going to be a clubsterant. That's the nice term for it, but it's basically going to be a nightclub, a 3-floor nightclub. This should have never been approved. And we hope that that people have conscience on this and to do the right thing and vote to deny this outright, pull this vote. But if you don't, you should do the right thing by this community and close this place Sunday through Wednesday at 12 a.m. and the restaurant can stay open on the weekends, Thursday through Saturday at 1 a.m. Because if it is a bona fide bistro, that would be sufficient because nothing good happens in this neighborhood past 12 a.m. Thank you.
Thank you, DM. Okay, our next three speakers for public session, which, and by the way, Thomas, are we okay as far as minutes and capturing?
Everything's well.
Thank you, Thomas. Awesome. Our next three speakers will be Lee Berman, Patrick Walsh, and Kevin on the topic of street safety and safety police. So Lee Berman, you have 2 minutes when you get selected.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, yes.
Great. Thank you. My name is Lee Berman, and I'm a lifelong resident of CV3 and of the Lower East Side. Like many of you who saw the video on the Bowery Boogie this week that captured in full detail the drunken revelry and out-of-control crowds that many in our community have been suffering with at the hands of mostly people who do not live in this community, we are fed up. For too long, portions of our neighborhood have been like the Wild West, whether in Hell Square or with nightly raves in the East River Park Amphitheater, with partiers coming from as far as Kentucky to party in our parks at 2 a.m., preventing those who live in our community from sleep and the ability to enjoy their own neighborhoods and have any quality of life. We demand that our elected officials and the city wake up, rather than our residents being kept awake until 3 or 4 or 5 a.m. nightly, and enforce the regulations already on the books and enforce the law. Thank you.
Thank you, Lee. Our next speaker is Patrick Walsh. Patrick Walsh.
Patrick, let me find him.
Mhm.
I don't see Patrick. I
Okay.
don't see Patrick in the attendee list.
Patrick, give you 5 seconds to make a comment in the chat to identify that you're here. If not, we'll have to move on. And in the duration of me, okay, I see a response in the chat. Patrick Walsh.
He must be on the phone.
I see a chat that says, I am here, Patrick Walsh. Did you see that?
Patrick, okay, let me see.
Okay.
Linear stimulus, he raised his hand.
Mhm.
Gotcha.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Jackie.
Patrick, you can speak.
Okay, hi. I want to begin by stating that unless we are just blabbing, it is absolutely essential that 3 related things be done. The first is that the level of abject degradation that we residents are forced to live under be recognized for that degradation. The second is that we demand the enforcement of already existing laws and demand consequences for breaking them. Arrests for disturbing the peace, for example, confiscating speakers used to draw hundreds of drunks at 4 in the morning, and totally disrupt the lives of hundreds or thousands of hardworking, law-abiding residents. The third is that we must seriously update and revise our ordinance concerning noise. What I mean to say is this: noise complaints ordinances were written in a different world. This was before anyone conceived of car stereo systems that were built to be heard more than a mile away, before the design of 1,000-watt portable speakers that can penetrate from walls from blocks away, and before anyone could conceive of a politic so reckless and contemptuous to its residents that it would allow 100 liquor licenses to be given out within a 5-block radius. In short, the noise ordinances were written at a time when noise complaints were in fact noise complaints. They are now violence, physical violence. Violence against our bodies, violence that penetrates our very homes, no matter how much we fortify them, and defiles the sacrality of our homes. It is violence that steals our time, our peace of mind, and degrades beyond measure the quality of our lives. In fact, it is violence that mocks the quality of our lives.
Thank you, Patrick. That's 2 minutes are up. Appreciate your comments. And Our third speaker on the topic of public safety and police is Kevin. Kevin. We will attempt to look for Kevin.
No, Kevin, he already raised his hand. He can speak.
Oh, yeah. Am I coming through?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, fabulous. Thank you for the time. I just want to start by saying I've lived on Orchard Street for my entire life. I have a very high threshold for what I consider to be too noisy, just out of adaptation. And what's been happening the last few weeks is completely disruptive to having a functional life. And it goes above and beyond the complaints that we've been voicing for years now. Because of the outdoor seating and the lack of policing and just the atmosphere after COVID, there will be individuals gathering in 40 or 50 people blasting music out of their cars in one single spot. They're not going from bar to bar. The four walls that contained the nightclub or the bar that was the only thing we had as tenants and residents, those don't exist anymore. The bar has spilled out onto the street, which also is why no liquor licenses should be given to anywhere, regardless of what time the establishment closes, because people just stick around afterwards. It's a regular occurrence now for people to be doing burnouts in the street for so long that my smoke alarms go off at 1 o'clock in the morning, which I have video of if anybody wants to see it. And that is a different kind of disruption. We've gone from completely over policed. I used to see police cars going down Orchard Street every 10 minutes to not policed at all. I'm lucky if I see one go down every hour, and they do not respond to any 311 complaints at all. Please do not grant any more applications to any businesses, and please do something about the nuisance and the atmosphere that has been fostered from COVID. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Our next speaker on the public session I have here is David Troutman regarding conditions in the neighborhood. David Troutman.
David, you can speak.
Let me unmute. Okay. Originally, I was to speak about a late night coffee shop, 2 a.m. closing at 84 Stanton Street that now I understand has withdrawn their liquor license application. Our building next door at 86 Stanton Street collected signatures of 78% of the active homes asking that their liquor license be denied. We stated that we were in favor of a local coffee shop or restaurant run by an experienced restaurateur. And I highlight that word experienced restaurateur as being someone with a track record of running restaurants and not someone with a thrown together menu like we so often see. The Orchard Street and Stanton Street areas are.
Sorry to interrupt. I'm sorry. For the sake of process, I noticed the timer didn't quite go off. Allow us to maybe adjust 20 seconds to that, if you don't mind.
You know when you're ready.
Yeah.
Are we good now?
You can start the timer, Jackie. You know what? Go ahead, David, and pardon me if we have
Was
to.
I cut off any during my conversation?
Yes, we did, David. Yes, you can continue. Sorry.
I highlight that word experienced restaurateur as being someone with a track record of running restaurants and not someone with a thrown together menu like we so often see. The Stanton Street, Orchard Street areas are now a complete disaster with nightlife. There's absolutely no balance of life or quality of life in the area. In the past, I would never have referred to the people who come to enjoy our neighborhood as a mob. Now I do. There is certainly a newly unleashed mob mentality to the people that collect there out on the streets. It's clear that the 7th precinct is overwhelmed in their duties of control. There are significant delays in breaking up large crowds, and I question if the SLA reports are being sent to the State Liquor Authority concerning hotspots and events, of which there are many. Please give utmost consideration to liquor license issued to this area. Far too often, we see the establishments convert to something very different from their proposed business and routinely ignore their stipulations and promises of good behavior. We have enough problems in the area without giant 3-level clubs being added, and have that concern with the 84 Stanton Street location about a possible use of an upstairs 2 floors as a massive expansion into another large nightclub. I hope our newly elected officials will be able to clean up some of the mess that we now have. We feel routinely ignored by the current group. Thank you very much to Community Board 3 members for your time and service.
Thank you, David. Our next speaker for public session is D. Cupillo. I apologize. D.I. space C-U-P-I-L-L-O. D. Cupillo. Pardon me if I'm getting your name wrong. And it's in regard to testimony of SLA support.
Can you raise your hand, please? Because I can't find you, D. Capillo. Let me see. I can't find you from the, okay. I have a Polino Bindi who just raised the hand, but I don't see D. Capello.
Okay, D. Capillo, if that's how you fill out your form, the person that's in that has their hand raised, if that's you, maybe Jackie give her or that person a quick
okay,
unmute so we can verify if that's them.
Okay, I just did.
Hi, is
Hello.
this you?
Yeah.
Is this
Hello, can you speak?
Capillo?
Yes, you hear me?
Hi, are you D. Capillo?
Yes, Marcello,
Okay.
yes.
And your email is pbertini@me.com?
Yes.
Oh, okay. You have 2 minutes to speak on the testimony of SLA support.
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead. You have time.
Okay, no, I'm the applicant on of the Cinema Paradiso that was approved for liquor license. You hear me?
Yes, we hear you. Yes.
And I think that I got mistreated for having basically get approved, by the other way, don't be able to operate any of my idea in Cinema Paradiso, like taking people from the street and having a lunch or a dinner there and have them a glass of wine with the dinner. In this situation, it's impossible to operate a cinema. And you guys talking about all the problematic of a club and a situation like this, I am doing a culture there, and I think that I've been really excluding by the scene of a new idea of East Village. The other guy was saying that you're supposed to give a license to people with experience. I have a 30-year experience, only restaurant, never a club, never have a problem with the legal authority. And I really feel that you guys didn't put on a big effort for the culture and the revitalization of this neighborhood. If I don't do Cinema Paradiso, Cinema Paradiso is destined to be destroyed because landlord obviously will do another use. So this is my last appeal to you guys to reconsider some of the restriction. If not, we can say amen to Cinema Paradiso. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments. Our next speaker is Fanny Ip. Fanny, whose reason for appearing is opposition on the food bar liquor license.
Hi.
Fanny can speak.
Hi.
Hi, Fanny.
Okay. My name is Fanny Ip, and I reside at Gouverneur Gardens, and I'm speaking tonight to oppose the approval of the full bar liquor license to Lighthouse Immersive USA, the operator of the Van Gogh exhibit currently at Basketball City at Pier 36. I live right on Montgomery Street. That is the main artery to and from the Pier 36. Us residents at Gouverneur Gardens already have to deal with the after effects from partiers leaving from the boat cruises at the pier during the summer. We do not need to add more of the same from the exhibition. The heavy traffic flow, the honking, and the people leaving from these events in the evenings are usually highly inebriated. Screaming, vomiting, and urinating, we don't need more of it. I don't care how high-end the exhibition is or how having a full bar will add to the exhibition's experience. If you are charging at least $50 per ticket as well as $30 for parking for an exhibition that is basically just a video running on a loop, I can't imagine how the sale of alcohol is necessary in order to meet your bottom line. I am also disappointed at the CB3 SLA committee for pre-approving the indoor liquor license prior to the public meeting. By the time it was the public's turn for comments, it was suggested by the committee chair that the public should only comment if they have ideas to help CB3 board member Trevor Holland and his Pier 35. When it was time to draft the resolutions, they were already written as the license was approved and the changes that were made were all to the benefit of Pier 35. And no one else was allowed to comment, even though practically everyone of the public who commented was not in support of this liquor license. I thought the community board was supposed to be for the community, but it is obviously not. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments, Fanny. Our next speaker will be Michael Marino. Reason for appearing will be park announcements.
Thanks, Eric. Yeah, I mean, completely right turn alert, because I'm not talking about anything relating to a liquor license or quality of life issues, although we have our own down on the Lower East Side and Curley's Park with some constant fireworks and partying at the bandshell. But what I wanted to do was announce that Friends of Curley's Park within the next month after the Comfort Station reopens is going to be installing a Little Free Library in our park. And for those of you who are not familiar with the Little Free Library concept, it's a nonprofit organization that works with charters, of which Friends of Curley's Park will become one, to put little libraries in public access places where people can come and borrow books for free. So you can take a book you like, you can drop off a book you're done reading, and swap it out so that other people can read your books as well. And so we are launching that within the next month once the Comfort Station opens, and we welcome everyone to come down to the park and grab a book and grab a seat on one of our new picnic tables or benches and enjoy a good read. That's all I had to say. Thanks, Eric.
Thank you, Michael. Our next speaker is Sharita Smith from Great Oaks Charter School, NYC. Sharita Smith, S-H-E-R-I-T-A, Smith. Do we have a Sharita Smith?
I saw her earlier, but I can't find his name anymore. Let me see.
Please look in the attendee list. Her hand is raised. That's where everyone is raising their hand.
Thank you. Thank you, Trevor.
Okay, Sharita.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity. I am Sharita Smith, the Chief Operating Officer of Great Oaks Charter School, New York City. We are located at 38 Delancey Street between Forsyth and Eldridge Street. We're a community-based school, and so we felt it was important to come to the community board and let the members and residents know more about our school and some things to expect from us this coming school year. We currently have a middle school that serves grades 6 through 8 and a high school that is opening that serves grade 9 and will continue to grow each year until we are fully grown, grades 9 through 12. So if your child starts with us in middle school, then they can stay with us through high school. We also believe in small groups and mentorship, and we have a partnership with AmeriCorps, which is a volunteer organization sponsored by the government to provide fellows to our school. We currently employ approximately 45 fellows in middle school that provide intervention and mentorship services to our students. So our students are pulled out several times a day for small group instruction by a fellow. Also in high school, these fellows will serve alongside teachers. So there will be 3 adults in each room. We believe in inclusion, and we're proud to announce that our high school program will be fully inclusive, where we will have a general education teacher and a special education teacher in each room, so they're able to meet the various needs of students in the classroom. I also have my partner with me, Chandel Smith, who I believe will be speaking after me, and he'll just let you know more about how to apply to the school. And I'll also drop a link in the chat where you can find more resources about the school. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Sharita. I don't see his name in the speaker form, so apologies if that was the expectation. Our next speaker will be Stephanie Felix in regards to smoke-free night shift presentation.
Stephanie, can you raise your hand, please?
Stephanie.
I don't see her in the attendees. And then there is a hand whose name is Liz Working, but I don't know if Liz Working is Stephanie.
I don't have a speaker form for Liz.
Okay.
So we'll move on if Stephanie joins us to our next speaker. It's Kara Meyer, Kara with a K, Kara Meyer in regards to free learn to swim lessons.
Kara is on.
Okay, Kara, you have 2 minutes.
Hello, my name is Kara. I just wanted to let everyone know that I'm from Friends of Plus Pool, and we are accepting registrations for our free Learn to Swim program for kids with little to no swim experience. The classes will take place this August. It's a series of 8 classes that teach basic water safety, treading, floating, body positioning, leg and arm movement, and overall respect for the water, and our effort to get kids excited about hopefully swimming in the river and elsewhere. And I'm going to drop the registration in the link. The program is prioritizes low income and people with little to no swimming experience, and is 100% free.
Okay, thank you, Kara. We have 2 more speaker forms, and then we'll close public session. Our next speaker will be Kimberly Acevedo in regards to Project Hope. Kimberly Acevedo.
Kimberly, can you raise your hand, please? I don't see your name in the attendees, Kimberly.
For New York.
Okay. Yes, I don't see it either. Okay, not seeing Kimberly in the attendees list. We'll move on to the next speaker.
Zoning things.
And the final speaker is Nicholas Cercharo. Nicholas Cercharo regarding curbside composting resuming in the fall.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Go ahead, Nicholas.
Hi, my name is Nicholas Chicaro. I'm the Assistant Director of Community Affairs for the Department of Sanitation. I just wanted to let everybody know that the curbside composting program is going to be resuming in the fall, but the sign-up sheet to participate is going to be live on our website in August. It is different than the way we used to have it, where buildings would be able to enroll through a form and all residents would just be automatically enrolled. Now you're going to have to request service through the participation form, which will be live again August 21st. If you already have, kitchen containers and brown bins, that's great. One. to begin service, and you can request that on the online start service form. Any nonprofit and agencies that receive DSMY service can sign up, and any schools that had organics prior to COVID are going to be reinstated. We're happy to come out during the summer to partner on events and let people know that the registration form is going to be live, and we're happy to send something over. We're currently finishing our flyer that is actually going to be mailed to all residents about the service. So we can share that with you that you could share on your social media or your newsletter outlets as well. If anybody has any questions, you can reach out to me, and we're happy to work with you, and we look forward to your participation. Thank you so much.
Okay, Eric Stewart Zamsky had a form. I don't know why it wasn't in with the ones that I emailed to you.
Okay, well, given that clarification, let's allow 2 minutes for Stewart, knowing that the district management office confirms the form came in. So Jackie, you can get to Stewart.
Yep.
Okay, Stewart, you have.
You want to start at 0 though.
Stewart.
I'd like to ask that the community board stand up for the residents it serves and let its electeds know that you are unequivocally against permanent open restaurants and bars. I was at a press conference where Carlina Rivera said that she'd never pass a bill that wasn't tenant or neighbor led. Meanwhile, she supports open restaurants and bars in her district, which is overrun by liquor licenses, noise, and increasing lack of retail diversity. This bill has had virtually no public input. Let's hold Rivera to her word. I've been to many SLA committee meetings where members weigh their deep concerns over the balance of bar and restaurant operations and the ability of residents to live peaceably. Open restaurants makes all of the stipulations moot, and residents are left with bars and restaurants just outside their windows. I recently heard the Economic Development Committee describe its longstanding plan to promote retail diversity in the East Village. But this work becomes moot if landlords are incentivized to rent to bars and restaurants because they can annex extra street space and pay higher rents. I've been to zoning committee meetings where the smallest details are parsed in order to preserve our neighborhood's integrity. Again, this good work becomes moot as sheds take over our landmark blocks on residential streets. At the press conference, Susan Stetzer remarked on the out of control party atmosphere in the East Village. We have places dubbed Hell Square and Hell's Gate, where streets are overrun by Mardi Gras-like congregants. Open restaurants and bars aren't what our district needs or wants. How many of you live in earshot of a street shed? Well, just because you don't doesn't mean that you shouldn't stand up for the many that do. Stand up for your community. Stop kowtowing to your city and state electeds. They work for us. Tell them and the mayor and the Hospitality Alliance that CB3 is unequivocally against permanent open restaurants and bars. Thank you.
Thank you, Stewart. Appreciate those comments. Okay, this will conclude public session. Let us now transition into the elected officials reports. We'll start with Mayor Bill de Blasio. Is Andrew Kunks present? If not, we'll move forward to Public Advocate Jumaane Williams, Philip Ellison. If Philip or representative from Jumaane Williams' office is not here, let's move to Comptroller Scott Stringer's office. Luke Wolf.
Yeah.
Luke. Jackie, was
No,
that?
Carol, I don't know if you saw the chat, but when they said there were only 2 speakers.
Oh, I think somebody's not muted. I think that might be Stuart.
And I'm like, I put in a speaker form.
Can you just mute him?
Can you mute him? There, perfect. Not seeing Luke Wolf or a representative from Scott Stringer. Manhattan Borough President's Office, Brian.
Hi, good evening. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I've been having some internet issues, so I apologize if I come in and out. I'll try to be really quick. It is election day and polls are still open till 9 p.m. As long as you are in line by 9 p.m., you will be able to vote. And that includes for community board members. If you're able to be on the meeting while you're standing in line, all the better. The important thing is, as long as you're in line by 9 p.m., you can vote. Congratulations to CB3's newest members. We're really excited to work with you. Our office is here to help you get acclimated and answer any questions you have, although I will say you are in very good hands here at CB3 for that. We are PSA 4 and NYPD.
I don't know, but I wouldn't assume it's if it doesn't.
No problem. Okay, so PSA 4, the NYPD is having a new election process for commanding officers in which our office takes a role. We're going to be convening a panel consisting of the president and vice president of the precinct community council, the chair and vice chair of the community board, 2 residents who live within the precinct boundaries, and 2 business owners from within the precinct boundaries. We're working on that right now. Yes, and so it's a panel to consider the 3 or 4 top finalists for the position. We are really happy to hear that the city has made a written commitment to the compost yard of LESEC, the Ecology Center, to return the compost yard to East River Park after the completion of East Side Coastal Resiliency Project. We're working with LESEC to try and find them a better temporary home for the compost yard and also better administrative offices for their temporary HQ. Particularly right now, we're looking at a bunch of places, but we are hoping that Randall's or Ward's Island might be a possibility. Stay tuned. We hope to have some positive developments in that soon. We're going to be meeting with Middle Collegiate Church for a site visit at the former location with Reverend Jackie to hear her and her team's hopes and aspirations for the future of the church and how our office can be a part of making their dream a reality. We were happy to see that the Liberty Bell there was successfully removed. Our office was heartened and relieved by Mount Sinai's decision to renovate Beth Israel and its current location and to continue to provide its essential healthcare services there. We are looking forward to a robust community engagement process in determining the scope of services needed there. As you all know, last weekend was Juneteenth, and we had the distinct honor of joining former Manhattan BPs C. Virginia Fields and Ruth Messenger in naming the large conference room in our office the Constance Baker Motley Conference Room in honor of the first women to serve in the office. We also want to congratulate the New Yorker Union on their significant victory. There's nothing more important to workers than having rights and dignity in the workplace. And also, we're happy to see that a strike was not necessary in the end, though we were prepared to support the strike however our office could. And then finally, just a reminder, we are still handing out boxes of masks and sanitizers and other PPE equipment across Manhattan. If your school or organization needs equipment, please contact our office. I will be putting my contact information and links to our latest newsletters in the chat. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Our next.
Hi, Eric. I have a question.
Eric has some questions.
Oh, yes, I apologize. Yes, let's open up to the members. Who has their hand? Was that Michelle?
I think Lee and I have our hands up.
Go ahead, Michelle, and then Lee.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Brian, for being here. And I assume that your boss is not here tonight because it's election night. But on the vein of what you said about new members, I think that there are some people on this community board who are wondering why one of our most experienced, most respected members was not reappointed this year. We have a lot of work to do here on CB3, and people who have that sort of experience would be very good to have. And I sent a letter to your boss 3 weeks ago, and I followed up last week and never received a response. So I would very much like to have an answer. I think that CB3 deserves an answer about why one of our longest standing, most experienced members was not reappointed. Thank you.
Can I answer that or just address it at least?
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
We do apologize for that delay. The reason is that we are trying to, Gail and Dominic have been trying to connect to have a discussion that's at the request of Dominic. It's basically, it's not appropriate for me to speak any further on that. until Gail and Dominic are able to have that conversation. But it is heard, and I think once that conversation is had, our office would be happy to speak about it further.
Thank you, Brian. Lee Berman.
Hi, thank you. Thank you, Brian. This is just to follow up with your announcement about the new community input.
I can't hear him.
I'm sorry. This is to follow up with your mention of the community input for PSA4's new leadership. Is there any planning for expanding that to other precincts in Lower Manhattan, the 5th, the 7th, the 9th, when leadership is due for change down there too?
Thanks, Lee. No, it's a good question. I apologize I didn't clarify. Yeah, this is a new policy. I know it's at least the new policy for PSA. I don't know about other precincts per se, but I know it is in fact the case for PSAs. In fact, right now there's also the similar process is happening for PSA 5, but given that's East Harlem, I'm only referring to PSA 4 here. But it's a good question, and I apologize for not making that clarification.
Okay, seeing no other hands raised from the full board. Thank you, Brian. We'll move on to our next elected official report, and that's with Congressmember Nydia Velázquez. Ms. Yi. I see Ling Yi.
Wait, oh, am I on? Okay, I'm unmuted. Thank you, Eric, and thanks everybody here tonight, and congratulations to all the new members. And it's election night. I'm going to make it very short and sweet. A quick mention of Congresswoman Nydia Velázquez's collaboration with Senator Gillibrand and 27 other members of Congress to call on Biden administration to reestablish Obama-era affordable housing program. This is the latest effort by Congresswoman Velázquez to try and to urge federal financings to bring the funding level for for affordable housing back to the level it used to be, because a lot of our community housing crisis, the NYCHA crisis, a lot of has to be with federal defunding of these programs. The federal government is not investing at the level that it used to invest, and this is in conjunction with Congresswoman Nydia Velázquez's bill to bring $32 billion to NYCHA to permanently and once and for all to fix all the infrastructure issues in New York public housing system. And that's on the affordable housing side. And then another news to announce is the Community Development Financial Institution Fund. That is a federal funded program that funds like loan programs for a community for economic development in distressed communities. In the Lower East Side, there are 3 financial institutions: Lower East Side People's Federal Credit Union, the Finest Federal Credit Union, and the Renaissance, that each received about $1.8 million for 2021, and this should at a time when a lot of our small businesses are under hit, and this should provide programs that help small businesses to get another fighting chance. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Lane. Are there any questions for Congressmember Nydia Velázquez's office? Seeing no hands raised, thank you. Our next elected official report will be Congressmember Carolyn Maloney, Victor Montesinos. Do we have a representative from Congressmember Maloney's office? Okay, seeing none. We'll move on to the next elected
Eric,
official.
I think Victor is in the, he was in the attendees, and I just promote him to become the panelist.
Yes, am I here?
Yes,
Hello?
you are.
Okay.
Congresswoman Carolyn Maloney, Chair of the Committee on Oversight and Reform, joined President Joe Biden at the White House as he signed the Juneteenth National Independence Day Act into law. The landmark legislation establishes Juneteenth, which is celebrated annually on June 19, as a federal holiday. As chair of the Oversight Committee, Congresswoman Maloney managed House debate on the bill on Wednesday evening. During the debate, she stated, "Our federal holidays are purposely few in number and recognizes the most important milestones in our country's history. I cannot think of a more important milestone to commemorate than the end of slavery in the United States." Following the enrollment ceremony, the Congresswoman spoke on the House floor, emphasizing that Juneteenth is a cause for celebration. It should also serve as an occasion for learning and for this country to reflect on our history and recommit to doing the vital work to ensure that the lasting effects of slavery, bigotry, and racism are replaced with hope, dignity, and true equality for all, said Congresswoman Carolyn Maloney. These and other issues can be found in the Congresswoman's website at house.gov. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Congressmember Maloney's office? Okay, seeing no hands raised, we'll move on to Assemblymember Yulin New. Do we have James Liu present with us? Do we see a James Liu in the attendees? Okay, looks like I don't see anything. Do you see anything, Jackie? James Liu?
No, I don't see him.
Okay, so if there's no representative from Assemblymember Yulin, we can move forward to Assemblymember Deborah Glick's report. That's from Charlie Anderson.
Hi, yes, I'm here.
Hi, Charlie.
Hi, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Charlie Anderson from Assemblymember Deborah Glick's office. Earlier today, we sent over our board report. There's a hefty bit in there about the wrap up of session this year. The legislative session ended 2 weeks ago. We have a number of bills that the Assembly and the Senate passed that were carried by Assemblymember Glick, notably loft tenant protections. We had an expansion of loft tenant protections. There's a caveat or a loophole in the current loft law in which some loft tenants are unable to sue their landlord in court should they be denied access to essential services or basic habitability of their units, and that was cleaned up this year. Some other bills, including a bill about home insurance discrimination, in which insurance companies can discriminate against individual policyholders based on the type and breed of dog that they have. So we have a number of bills that we've listed in our report. We'll also be sending this out as part of our monthly e-blast here in a couple of days. So we encourage folks to take a look there. It was a more difficult session this year because we were so remote, and I know people feel like they may have been a little bit more disconnected, but of course the session did continue, and so we are hopeful that folks will take a look. Lastly, I wanted to mention two things. One is the Small Business Recovery Grant Program that the legislature passed as part of the budget earlier this year. We have a blurb there. Basically, this is for for-profit businesses with gross receipts anywhere between $25,000 and $550,000. So folks these are pretty small local businesses. You can find more information for these grants. Potential grants range from $5,000 to a maximum of $50,000. Every little bit helps. And so you can find more information at nysmallbusinessrecovery.com. And that, finally, one last thing, it's beginning on June 1st, the Emergency Rental Assistance Program started. This is a assistance program for tenants who are in arrears because they either lost a job during the pandemic or another reason. This began on June 1st. It's being administered by the Office of Temporary and Disability Assistance. We know that there was some issue with the website at the beginning, but we've heard that that should be cleared up by now. If you're having any issues or you know of folks having issues, they can always call our office at 212-674-5153 or reach out to me in any way. We can try to help folks as much as we can, but there are navigators and people who are offering assistance to individuals who are making these claims and trying to get this, the ERAP benefit. Other than that, if there are any questions, that's it from us.
Thank you, Charlie. We have a question from Lee Berman, who has his hand raised.
Sure.
Go ahead, Lee.
Hi, thank you. Hi, Charlie. This is
Hi.
to follow up with a question that came up or that I asked about a year or so ago. I didn't notice anything in this session from the Assembly member or from anybody addressing the Excelsior Scholarship Program. As you're aware, for working middle class families, especially if you've got a two-income family, if you earn $1 more than the current limit, your child is completely prevented from taking advantage of the Excelsior program. I noticed that there a couple of years ago there was some suggested legislation to increase the amounts every year to step up. I'd like to follow up to find out whether or not the Assembly member has discussed with anybody else or the governor or colleagues a possibility of having a system so that rather than being completely cut off, if you earn $1 more than the threshold, it could be, there could be a tiered system so that more people, especially those who come from working middle class families, are not prevented from taking advantage of SUNY and CUNY schools and actually being able to afford.
Sure. Thanks, Lee. You know, I mean, a couple years ago when you and I spoke about that, we had mentioned or we had discussed that this $125,000 a year threshold for the Excelsior Scholarship, while it may seem, money is different in New York City than it is elsewhere in the state. And the Excelsior program is certainly a statewide program. And so we can have that discussion a little bit further about this step up increase. I don't know the specific answer to your question about what came up during this session about it, so I'd have to get back to you. But you're right, nothing has changed to my knowledge about the Excelsior program in the last year. And that was something that was floated by the governor to begin with, so I'd have to follow up with you about that. But I'll talk to the Assembly member and we'll connect sometime in the next couple weeks.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Eric, I also have a question.
Yes.
Because I cannot raise my hand because I'm the host. Hi, Charlie. So I want to follow up on the ERAP program. So I think the online system is actually constantly down. It's not just the beginning period. And also the application is very complicated. When I helped the tenant to apply, it took me 4 hours to complete the application. And also the landlord needs to file separately and no one knows if there's any small discrepancy between the landlord and the tenant's applications. And the OTDA, when I call the OTDA does not let you make any correction once you submit the applications or explain. And then we also call the community group for help, and they are basically telling us the same problems, and they are just as frustrated as we are. So I feel like this program is meant to help low-income tenants who are at risk of eviction. But with these technicals and administrative barriers, I feel like it is actually discouraging people to apply. And I also feel like the system actually is discriminating people with less education. And I understand that the moratorium on the residential eviction is, I think, end of August, and we are running out of time. So I'm not sure if with the system like that, I'm not confident many qualified tenants are able to get their rent relief before then. So I'm asking you, your office, and Brian is not here tonight. I mean, I'm asking all the legislators' office to push OTDA to consider simplify the process or provide more assistance. I just think that if SBA, how SBA distribute their fund is something OTDA can learn. Thank you.
Sure, I can take that back. You know, we advocated, we work with OTDA as much as possible in terms of helping folks to make these applications. As with any constituent service, you know, our office acts as a liaison. So if things are running slower, if there's an issue, you know, we can try our best to try to smooth that out. But I know that you're speaking more generally and not very specifically about one individual person, but from experience that you've had. So I can take that back and certainly see if our companion offices have had similar issues, or what we've done as a group or collectively, if not individually, to talk to OTDA.
I mean, I talked to the university settlement people. They are just as frustrating. I call them and I ask them if they are having the same problem. They were not able to. They also were not able to submit their applications, and they don't know how to follow up. I feel like it is across the board difficulty, and the application itself is just complicated. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. Okay, seeing no other hands raised for Assemblymember Glick, we'll move on to the next elected official report. That is Assemblymember Harvey Epstein, Auda Olivaria. Auda?
Hi, everybody. It's Auda Olivaria from State Assembly Member Harvey Epstein's office. I wanted to make a few announcements. One of them is the Emergency Rental Assistance Program. And I know we were just talking about that. We did have some constituents with issues applying, and we have a contact that was able to address the issues pretty quickly. So if anybody in Assembly District 74 is finding it difficult or has any questions or concerns, we're happy to follow up and get those issues resolved. And I know that there are some organizations that are working with constituents directly to apply. And I'm also happy to bring back any concerns that were previously mentioned about the application. So thank you for that. I also wanted to announce a victory for healthcare access in the community. Harvey attended a presser for Beth Israel Mount Sinai. The plan to downsize and move many critical services offsite has been withdrawn. So it's very exciting news for all of us. I also wanted to talk about end of session wins. We're excited to announce that there were many bills that were passed that we think will create some lasting change for many constituents in the state. One of them is the Less is More Act, HALT, Ending Solitary Confinement as We Know It, Housing Our Neighbors with Dignity Act to repurpose empty commercial properties as affordable housing. And lastly, it's Pride Month, and so we want to let everybody know that on the 27th of June, there will be a parade, and there are several other events happening. There's a link that I've added to the community board report, so if you want to take a look at it, please do. And yeah, I hope everyone was able to cast their vote today before 9 p.m. If you have any questions or concerns, I'm happy to take them now.
Any questions for the Assembly Member representative? Seeing no hands raised, Auda, thank you. Our next elected official report will be from State Senator Brian Kavanaugh's office. Greer Mayhew.
Hello, everyone. This is Greer Mayhew from State Senator Brian Kavanaugh's office. We do have some updates. We wanted to mention a couple of packages that were passed at the tail end of the legislature. At the legislative session. One is the gun violence package, which actually was passed a couple weeks ago at the start of the Gun Violence Awareness Month, which was meant to advance legislation to prevent gun violence in New York and make New York much safer. One particular bill we wanted to mention was the bill that Senator Kavanaugh actually sponsored, which is the outstanding warrant restriction bill, which would make it a crime to purchase a firearm knowing that there was an active warrant out for your arrest. It would also prohibit the gifting and selling of firearms to an individual if the provider knows that the recipient has an outstanding warrant. The second package is the Fair Housing Package, which consisted of 7 bills to combat housing discrimination and advance the state's fair housing goal. One bill from that package that we wanted to highlight is one that establishes all state and local agencies that administer the state housing programs and all organizations that receive state housing funds have an obligation to affirmatively further fair housing. So that bill was sponsored by the senator as well. I would also mention, the FEPS expansion bill. That bill is to raise the maximum rent payable under the state Family Homelessness Eviction Prevention Supplement Program, long title, which passed both the Assembly and the Senate. And the bill would raise the rent cap from 85% to 100% of HUD's fair market rent. That is now heading to the governor's desk for signature. We're very happy with that piece of legislation because we feel that it will ensure more families that experience homelessness will have more options to find housing. I would also mention the emergency rent assistance program that everyone else mentioned before. We actually did hear some issues about the application process, and the senator is working on getting those rectified. I will also bring back the comments that I heard this evening as well. So thanks again. And of course, reach out to our office if you need our assistance in any way. Thank you.
Thank you, Greer. Is there any questions for Greer, the State Senator Kavanaugh's office? Seeing no hands raised, we'll move on to the next elected official report. And that's from Senator Brad Hoylman's office, Caroline Wexelbaum.
She has somebody else here tonight. Maybe that's the person with the hand raised.
I'm moving this person to panelist.
Is that her?
Hello?
Yes. Hey, how are you?
Hi. Are you with the?
Yes. Ms. Wexelbaum wasn't able to make it tonight. I'm Gila Menashe. I'm interning for Senator Brad Hoylman. I just want to say that if anyone has any questions or concerns, please let me know. I'll take it back to the office. And if you need any assistance with anything, you could always reach out to our email or phone number. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions for State Senator Hoylman's office at this time? Seeing no hands raised, we'll move on to the next elected official report from Councilmember Margaret Chin's office. I see here Kana Irving.
No, there's somebody else here, I think.
Yeah, it's me, Angela. I'm here for Kana.
Hi, Angela.
Hi. Hello, everyone. Nice to see you all. If you don't know me, I'm Margaret Chin's Legislation and Budget Associate. Just a few quick updates, but in terms of our work in the district, Councilmember Chin partnered with the Horticultural Society last week to hand out over 70 bags of fresh produce to residents of 174-184 Forsyth Street. The box had fresh carrots, parsley, lettuce, beans, rosemary, and it was really great to be there with all the residents. In terms of legislative work, so at the last stated meeting, Councilmember Chin introduced a bill that proposes a reduction in interest rates for late payment of property taxes, specifically for small property owners who've been financially affected by COVID-19. This is similar to a bill that she introduced last year and enacted into law. The difference between last year's bill and this one is that this new bill will expand the eligibility for buildings who can qualify for these decreased late property tax payments. So buildings with an assessed value between $250,000 and $450,000 are now eligible. So we look forward to working with the administration and the rest of the council to bring this bill over the finish line. And speaking of property taxes, on June 16th, Councilmember Chin testified at the New York City Property Tax Commission's Manhattan hearing and shared her thoughts on their 10 recommendations for improving the property tax system. So as of now, the Tax Commission recommends that small rental buildings with 10 or less units are grouped with homeownership-oriented properties. And so in her testimony, Councilmember Chin called on the commission to expand that category so that small and medium-sized rentals, which often have a lot of rent-controlled units, can be grouped with more homeownership-oriented properties. So we believe that this is going to help ensure that those buildings are taxed fairly and equitably. And then lastly, just today, Councilmember Chin held a hearing with the Department for the Aging on how the city served seniors during the COVID-19 pandemic. The hearing further underscored the need to fully fund the home delivered meal program at $16.6 million, increase funding for NORCs, and ensure senior centers have the resources to transition back to in-person services. So we're continuing to work with DFTA just to ensure that in the event of another crisis, our city has the resources to serve older adults and that we can really support senior centers and human service providers as they transition back into in-person services. That's it from me. And because I'm subbing in for Kana, I'm happy to forward any questions you may have, and I can put my email in the chat as well. Thanks.
Any
I have
questions?
a question. Yeah, I can't raise my hand.
Go ahead.
Could you give us an update, since you're the budget person? Can you give us an update on the status of the community board budget? Are we going to have our $12,000 restored that was cut?
I actually cannot speak to the community board budget at the moment. Kana's mostly been working on that, but I can touch base with her and we can get back to you, Susan.
That would be great. Thank you. We're very, very, very worried.
Yes, we will. I will flag that in particular and just talk to Kana and we'll get back to you.
Super. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Any other questions for Councilmember Chin's office? Angela, I'll have one. Just a flag for the council member. It may be on your radar already, but just to let her know there are 2 NYCHA developments in her district currently that are without gas. That's 65 Jefferson Street and 240 Madison Street. And just to, for the council member's office, they've been without gas, I think for maybe a little over a month or maybe even longer. But I wanted to make sure to flag that. And also to any other local elected official rep that's still with us, to flag those 2 developments there as a place of a need and attention for whatever resources. Obviously they can't cook because they don't have gas, so they'll have to rely on those temporary burners.
Yes.
So,
Thank you
okay.
for flagging that. We have a NYCHA liaison, Patricia Olan, who's been working on that. And I can get in touch with her and see if we can get you any updates. Obviously, you know, going months on end without gas is really egregious. So I'll get in touch with her and we can get back to you on that.
Thank you. Yeah, just so it's on the radar. I know, okay, this is good. Any other questions for Councilmember Chin's office? Okay, seeing no hands raised, we'll move on. Thank you, Angela. To our final elected official report from Councilmember Rivera's office, Isabel Chandler.
Hi, good evening. I'm actually filling in for Isabel tonight. My name is Kate Scherer. I'm the Community Outreach Coordinator. Very brief updates. So this month, our office has been working with Community Board 3, Department of Health, Department of Sanitation to mitigate the ongoing rodent issues and following up there. So that's an ongoing issue. We're also spending a lot of time signing constituents up for vaccine appointments, although most locations no longer require an appointment. There's actually going to be a pop-up vaccine day at Girls Prep on East 12th Street. I'm going to put the details for that in the chat. It's the Pfizer vaccine, which is available for New Yorkers 12 and up. If there are any specific questions, I'm happy to bring them back to Isabel and to our office. And I'm also going to put the general contact information for our office in the chat as well. Thank you.
I see a hand raised, Kay Webster.
Thanks, Eric. I just wanted to thank Councilmember Rivera and the Commission on the Public Health and Community Voices for Health Systems Accountability and Rivington House for a big victory in getting Beth Israel not to downsize or change their facility. I mean, there's a big fight still ahead, but at the press conference, she did help carry that through with her advocacy. So I want to thank her for that. And the other thing is, just as we heard tonight, that a lot of our community is, this is the ongoing battle with the oversaturation of bars. And it seems to me that it's It's a statewide issue, it's a local issue, it's a council issue. And I would love it if our electeds would gather some way to have us have a community meeting, because I do think that our anyone who's lived next to a place that doesn't respect the neighborhood winds up being the de facto police of that site, and it really isn't fair to the community. And I don't think anybody wants it to be that way, but it doesn't look like it gets resolved. So for all the state electeds reps here and local, I think this is beyond just a community board issue. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you, Kay. Any other questions? Councilmember Chin's office.
Rivera.
I'm sorry, that's, yeah, Carlina Rivera's office. Seeing none, I will also just do a quick report back on Councilmember Rivera's office being supportive of a hot meal initiative that's taking place this week in partnership with Casa Adela and also Cafe Corradito. They're providing hot meals, and shameless plug, the vehicle they're using is Vision Urbana's Pantry, which is helping to deliver those meals to some of the NYCHA developments without gas. So big shout out to Carlina Rivera's office for that. Okay. That will conclude our elected officials reports.
Eric?
Yes.
Eric, Robin has a hand.
Oh, I see Robin. Okay, Robin.
Hi, thanks. Where's the, okay, right? I understand that I'm just really bothered by all this, complaints that our neighbors are talking about with these liquor licenses and these potential clubs in the neighborhood and the restaurants and whatnot, and how difficult it is to get anything done with that. And I'm asking Carlina Rivera's office again to really focus on that. I know that, there was a complaint made on an open culture street, 11th Street, that Council Member Rivera easily shut down because a few people complained about noise from cultural groups performing on the street for free. So if she's able to do that, I'm sure she's able to take care of these other real quality of life issues. So if you could please pass that message on, because I'm really bothered by what I'm hearing in tonight's meeting. Thank you.
Yes, I will pass it along. Thank you.
Can I say something? She may have had a complaint shut down, but the Culture Street was moved because the residents weren't willing to work with the partner.
Susan, thank you for those comments. Valentina Jones, you have your hand raised. Would you like to ask a question?
I just want to thank Carlina for her advocacy for flood protection in our area, because in terms of New York City planning, the comprehensive waterfront plan, basically, if there isn't a plan in place like what Carlina is advocating for, they want to facilitate housing mobility, which is basically to relocate the folks that's on the waterfront if there isn't a plan. So I thank Carlina for her advocacy for a flood protection plan for the Lower East Side, including myself, retired registered nurse that does not feel like being relocated, me, a senior citizen. So I thank her, because housing mobility does not appeal to me in the least little bit. And I don't think that I should have to even deal or think about housing mobility and being relocated. So I thank her for her efforts for flood protection for the Lower East Side. Thank you.
Thank you, Valentina. And now I see that there's no more hands up for Councilmember Rivera. Okay, so now that will conclude our elected officials report. Thank you, Kate. Let's move into our roll call and approval of minutes for April 2021. We'll give Thomas a moment to get ready for the roll call.
Ready to go when you are. We're going to start off. David Adams.
Yes.
Yaron Altman,
Yes.
Jesse Beck,
Yes.
Berman, Lee Berman. I know you were with us before, Lee. We'll get back to you. Carlin Chan,
Yes.
Jonathan Chu,
Yes.
David Crane,
Present.
Eric Diaz,
Yes.
Alistair Economakis,
Yes.
Jamie Felber.
Yes.
Thank you. Shirley Fantasy. Shirley Fantasy.
She's away.
Thank you. Ryan Gilliam,
Yes.
Deborah Glass.
Yes.
Thank you. Andrea Gordillo,
Yes.
Canel Hernandez.
Yes.
Canel. Thank you, Canel. Herman Hewitt,
Yes.
Trevor Holland,
Yes.
Linda Jones. Linda Jones.
She's away.
Okay. Valentina Jones.
Yes.
Tatiana Jorillo.
She's away.
Lisa Kaplan.
Yes.
Olympia Kazi.
She's away.
Jeanette Kim.
Yes.
Michelle Cooper Smith.
Present, yes.
Mei Lee.
Yes.
Wendy Lee. Wendy Lee. Alicia Lewis Coleman.
Yes.
David Louie.
Yes.
Laura Lugo.
Here.
Ellen Luo.
Yes.
Michael Marino.
Present.
Alexandria Militano. Alexandria. Michael Pareles.
Yes.
Thank you. Tariq Ramos.
Yes.
Paul Rangel.
Yes.
Damaris Reyes.
Yes.
Richard Ropiak.
Yes.
Thomas Rosa. Yes. Robin Chattel.
Yes.
Heidi Schmidt.
She's away.
And Larissa Scheinberg is away as well, right?
Right.
Anisha Stephen.
Yes.
Sandra Strother.
Yes.
Daniel Tanow.
Yes.
Tanow. Thank you. Josephine Velez.
Yes.
Troy Velez.
Yes.
Rodney Washington.
Yes.
Kathleen Webster.
Yes.
Jackie Wong.
Yes.
Ricky Wong.
Yes.
And did Lee Berman make it back yet?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Lee.
Thank you, Thomas.
Yes.
Okay. Next on the meeting agenda for tonight is the board reports. We're going to start with the board chair's report for our new members. My name is Eric Diaz. I'm the second vice chair, and I'm chairing tonight's meeting because our board chair, Alicia Coleman, is excused and is not present to chair at the moment. So in those situations, I step in. Also when the first vice chair is not available. So she left for us two brief things. It'll be about a couple of things she would like for me to share with the full board tonight. The first one is just a welcome to all the new members that have been appointed. Soon there will be some gatherings, and hopefully sooner than later, safely, where we can all join and talk and kind of learn from each other. This is the approach that the chair has taken with the board, so that we can all kind of learn from each other and discuss further some of the issues that we're all tackling together as volunteers here, appointees. She wanted to mention that there are two members that are new, that are in need of mentors. it's been the chair's desire that all new members receive that seasoned member of the board who's been in CB3 that can just share some life experience here, some guidance, and some also Robert rules, protocols regarding meetings and committee meetings and some of the language that takes place here. So if there's any board member that has been on the board for over a year who would like to take on the position of a mentor, our board chair is interested to hear of your interest and can pair you up with two of the new members. And just quickly want to just celebrate who they are. Canel Hernandez, Jamie Felber, Jeanette Kim, Laura Lugo, and Daniel Tanao. Just welcome to Community Board 3 as a new member appointees. So a virtual clap and celebration for you all. Welcome.
Thank
We're
you.
excited to have you here, all of you. Yes.
Thanks, guys.
Welcome as we discuss the issues together. Okay. The next on the board chair's report, she wants us to know to thank all the committee members, all the full board members for completing your committee request form. Also for the new members who have done so. She just wants to remind everyone that you may not be placed where you selected your committee, but that you will be placed where it's needed the most. So just be mindful of that. And also that new members will be placed first before assigning which committee members who are in desire of transferring to another committee member can take place. So just to be mindful of that. And if you have any questions further on that, you can always reach out to our board chair or even myself. And then the next thing on the list, we just want to encourage everyone to stay tuned for the next month of committee meetings that are taking place in July. Summer, I believe, began today or yesterday officially. And so our board chair just wants to remind everyone that although summer is here, we still need full participation at committee member meetings. So whatever committees that you're assigned to, please stay engaged. Continue to talk through some agenda items you want you and your chair to discuss at your committees as we kind of forward project and think towards September and further. Just a reminder that we will have August off. So there will be no meetings in August. Okay, I see a hand raised. Michael, yes, you have a question?
Yeah, I doubt you're going to be able to answer this, Eric, but I just wanted to bring it up, and perhaps Susan has some information that she can share. But I was just wondering what the outcome was of the issue that Alicia brought to us last month about the election not being sort of valid because the vote wasn't recorded in the minutes, and that caused some of us to be back on the executive committee temporarily. So I'm just confused because we got sort of somewhat of a cryptic email from Alicia saying everything's been solved, you don't need to be on the executive committee anymore, but I'm not quite sure how it was solved.
Okay, Eric, I'm going to jump in. Okay, Susan, you want to answer it, Susan, because I'm in a very loud environment.
Sure. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump in. I didn't realize you were on. But yeah, you listen and tell me if I'm getting it all right. So we had been, or Alicia had been trying to get the law department to have a finding and give us advice at the suggestion of the borough president's legal. It has suggested that we go to the law department. It took quite a while to get to the law department, partly because they've been hacked. But the answer from the law department was that the election was valid. What we had was specifically a parliamentary procedure violation that would be corrected by voting on the amendment, which by that point we already had. And he said the minutes should reflect that vote. And that was it. Is that correct, Alicia? No, not hearing from her. You know, I did see what she put in writing and did speak to her. So it was specifically a parliamentary procedure violation and did not invalidate the election.
Okay, thanks. I wasn't sure if what we were.
That is correct, Susan. I'm sorry. That is correct. Yes, thank you.
Mhm. Thank you, Susan. And Michael, yes, that was going to be the response from me as well. So that's kind of the official response.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And the next
Eric, Richard
Yes.
has a hand.
we have a hand up. Richard.
Yeah, Richard.
Ropiak. Hi, Richard.
Hi, Eric. We have been, like everybody else, we have dealt with the COVID situation, and we've dealt with holidays. And in some cases, it has tossed committee meetings sideways. I'd just like to raise that point and ask if we could more or less regularize back to our normal schedules instead of bouncing committees around. And it wasn't necessarily our fault. We were stuck with circumstances, but I guess I'd like to ask the office and the executive committee to be conscious of that. That's all.
What are you talking about? I'm not aware, other than we changed the date of economic development, I'm not aware of committees being bounced around.
Well, okay, if it was only economic development, that's fine. I guess I'd like to make sure that economic development goes back to its regular schedule.
It's not, and I'm sorry, Anisha, do you want to take that?
It's not going to go back to its usual day of the first Wednesday because Arts and Culture as a subcommittee needs to meet before economic development in order to have resolutions be presented at economic development in the same month. So we are moving to the second Wednesday, and it will be the second Wednesday consistently going forward.
Fine. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Anisha. And finally, there is a congratulatory just send off and just an acknowledgement of a long-term board member, Dominic Berg, who has served with the, I'm sorry, Dominic. Yeah, I think I got a Dominic Berg, who has served on the Community Board 3 for a substantial amount of time. He unfortunately is not reappointed to the board. And so our board chair would just like to acknowledge him just with also a congratulatory, just a round of applause out of respect to his dedication to the board. And so on behalf of the board chair, I want to make sure to convey that to the rest of the board. And I think that will conclude the board chair's report. Okay. And I will now move over to district manager's report. Susan.
Thank you. Since you ended with Dominic, I would like to start by saying, acknowledging what you said. Dominic was chair for a long time. I forget how many years. And so I worked really, really closely with him. And I want to say he was just, the most conscientious, most productive, most organized, just the most everything. He will be very greatly missed. I depended on his expertise in many areas for many things, and I will really miss him. Going on, before I get too sad. So I'm going to be a little bit longer than usual, and I want to address particularly the complaints that a lot of some of the public brought up in the public session, but there are also complaints I get every day from every part or most parts of the district. So I receive many, many complaints, which are extremely justified, about neighborhood conditions, about the structures in the street, about the parting, the noise, unpermitted amplified sound on the street all night, brass bands on the street corners, mobs, DJ parties in Tompkins Square Park late at night, rooftop parties in the East Village. It is out of control. I was quoted as saying it's out of control. I think anybody who lives in any of these areas will agree. The Tompkins Square Park problems, which we got a tremendous amount of complaints, were resolved when the elected officials and Community Board 3 reported on the complaints we received. We got together. Commissioner Castro arranged with Manhattan South Patrol to get additional NYPD on the weekend in the parks. And we all agreed that enforcement was needed, but it should not be a sweep or aggressive tactics. Pretty much that's the way they were in Washington Square Park. And this does seem to be working. And it should be clear when the police are shutting down these events, they are responding to resident complaints and to the community board and elected officials who are reporting complaints. This is unpermitted sound and unpermitted events. The DJs and those creating these events move from space to space when they're closed down. They were in Washington Square Park. They went to Tompkins Square Park. They've spread to community gardens. Now they're in East River Amphitheater a lot. It's playing whack-a-mole. The 9th precinct recently got 22 new officers, and they also now have additional resources on the weekend. We still see lack of enforcement on street issues. This seems to be mostly the choice of the administration. I mean, we got to look at, you know, where to place the blame, and it's often a designated policy from the administration. The 7th precinct recently had 12 officers retire. They gained only 6 new ones, and they have not had regular additional weekend resources. I have asked, I think it was last week, I sent out an email to all the local elected officials of that area, asking to help try, you know, get political pressure to try get additional resources for the police in that area. I haven't had a response yet, but I think that's something that everyone should advocate for, is from the elected officials, is to help us get additional police on weekends. You probably heard that it took about 2 weeks ago, there was a mob in front of Hair of the Dog. It had nothing to do with the business, but it was at that location. And there are a lot of complaints that it took the police almost an hour to respond. This was because of lack of resources. At the exact same time, there was a gun run at a sneaker store a few blocks away, and that they were dealing with that before they responded to the mob. What happened is a car appeared with huge speakers, started blasting music. This happened again last week at Ludlow and Stanton. After the businesses were closed, people just appeared with a huge speaker, started blasting music. People that started partying in the streets. It was not associated with the business. The commanding officer was working that evening and was able to call and get additional reinforcements sent in. They did confiscate the speaker. They did issue summons, but you know, I don't expect that we're not going to see that problem anymore. So one thing I think we absolutely need is more police. The police don't have clarity. For instance, right now we have 4 a.m. is a closing hour outdoors. No one, I don't think anyone planned for that. I think it's a result of lack of planning. There's no clarity. If you go on the Department of Transportation website, it gives you a link to the State Liquor Authority to talk. What happened is when outdoor restaurants were created and restrictions were created, then the restrictions were lifted and we're left with this 4 a.m. curfew that we've never had before. And there's no clarity. Nobody understands what's going on. There is no general enforcement regarding open restaurant structures. There is an article in the Times today in the Today section where they talk about how the Department of Transportation responds. So if there's a problem, a non-compliance problem, Department of Transportation goes out and says, you know, this structure or whatever you're doing is wrong. You have 24 hours to comply. They come back in 24 hours. If they have not complied, they write a letter of cease and desist letter. And that's it. They are not allowed to do anything beyond that. They are not allowed to take away the structure. They're not allowed to fine. They're not allowed to do anything. So that, I think that's a big part of the problem we're seeing. And again, this is not lack of enforcement by DOT. This is designated non-enforcement by the administration. If a business has a stipulation from Community Board 3 to not use outdoor space, then they do not follow open restaurant guidelines. They must follow the stipulations or get a waiver from the Community Board. Most businesses don't know this. Even again, the administration has given incorrect information. I have it in writing from the SLA, so I know it's right. So if there's a particular restaurant that is a problem or a business, we can look up the stipulations. However, and in fairness, most of the businesses don't know that and need to have this explained. However, we do not have the resources to go and check every eating, drinking place in CB3 and check their stipulations and then take action. We have on certain specific ones where problems were reported. The State Liquor Authority had extra resources for inspection while the restrictions were in effect. They no longer have those inspectors, so it is almost impossible to get them to inspect. So it's not a happy story, and it's not resolving anything. I just hope it kind of clarifies why the problems are happening. Community boards don't ordinarily have district service cabinet meetings in July and August, but I did last year because of the issues going on, and will do so at least in July this year. I have on my agenda updates for the vending situation at 14th Street and First Avenue, enforcement at the amphitheater and Luther Gulick Park, and latest guidance for rooftop parties. We do meet in July. We don't generally meet in August. There are except for there are generally SLA meetings in August, because otherwise the September meeting goes to 4 a.m. and that actually happened once. So that's it. Also, committee request forms did not go out to the current board members. If anyone would like one, just shoot me an email and I'll send it to you. And if there's no questions, that's it.
Any questions at this time regarding the district manager's report? This is for full board members. Seeing no hands raised. Okay, we will move on then to committee reports. We'll start with the Transportation, Public Safety and Environment. Paul.
Eric, is there no executive committee report before me, or?
No.
No, okay. All right, so transportation, we only had one resolution that we passed, which was the bus stop application for, I can't remember their name off the top of my head, XR Happy Touring at 24 Bowery. We approved the bus application at that stop. They are dropping off and picking up once a day right now. We also had the M14 Select Bus Service proposal. They will be coming back in July with an update to that proposal, and hopefully more members from the community can come out to that meeting in July. Other than that, that was it.
Thank you, Paul.
Questions, comments, concerns, jokes? No? Okay, great, thanks.
Thank you, Paul. If there's none, we'll move on to the next committee report. That would be the Economic Development, Anisha Stephen.
Hi, everybody. We did not have any resolutions in economic development this month. We worked mainly on our district needs. Arts and Culture also met this month and also worked on their district needs and did not have any resolutions as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Our next, no questions for Anisha. Okay, next committee report is the Parks, Recreation, Waterfront Resiliency, Trevor Holland.
Thank you, Eric. Just to start off, no good deed goes unpunished. And remember that it's always my fault. But we did get some good news from Parks Department. $120 million is going for the construction of the amphitheater cover, which was not part of the original budget.
Call from Jesse.
Okay. which was not part of the original budget, so that's good news. It also includes funding for the flyover bridge, which will take care of the pinch point near the Con Edison station, which was a big issue between pedestrians and bikers. And the Murphy Brothers Playground will get 2 new bathrooms. Additionally, the Ecology Center, the compost yard, will be returning back to East River Park. After being on our agenda for nearly a year straight, we managed to get some movement, and that's very good news because we were at a point where we didn't know what was going to happen, and now it's coming back to the park. We did do a resolution for a plus pool. We had some requirements for this plus pool installation that is still a bit far from actually being installed in the East River. But there is one change I want to make. And David, I know you've mentioned this many times on how we're supposed to do this. I'm going to try because I'm not remembering how to do it, but I'd like to make a small adjustment to the wording in the therefore be resolved clause, which I did not include something that Val had mentioned, and it was at the first therefore be resolved after Pier 35, it should say, and public funding from New York City EDC and or relevant city and state agencies. If there are no objections, I'd like to amend that particular portion of the resolution.
Are there
I
any
see a enthusiastic check mark, thumbs up from David, meaning that I probably did it right. But are there any objections?
You did, Trevor. You did.
Trevor,
Thank you.
would you be able to repeat that so I can get the wording accurate in the minutes?
Sure.
Yes.
At the therefore be it resolved.
1 second, Trevor. I apologize. I do see Richard Ropiak's hand was up. Richard was nope. Okay.
I can wait until he modifies.
In regards to this. Okay. So then go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead with the wording.
So I'm going to repeat it. It should say, and south of Pier 35 and public funding from New York City EDC and or relevant city and state agencies.
And public funding from EDC, and you said and or?
And or relevant city and state agencies.
Thank you so much.
Okay, great. So that friendly amendment is going to be put in. Richard, yes, you had your hand up.
Trevor, I read the motion and I'm hoping that you discussed it at committee, but given the issues surrounding COVID that continue about health and about our children, I'm uncomfortable with the idea of filtering the water from the East River and potentially letting our children swim in that environment. Can you explain that a little bit more? Is this a new technology? How or are we being used as guinea pigs?
I don't think we're being used as guinea pigs. I wish you had come to the committee presentation. It was quite informative and it did go over a lot of those issues. The filtration is new. It's not the only filtration system being used. And actually people do swim in the river right now. It is safe, as according to a lot of officials. I don't think I would go in the East River, but there are folks who do swim in that. I don't see Kara on here anymore as an attendee. I know she spoke at the beginning, but she has the expertise to explain that. And I can have her reach out to you so she can explain the technology that you're using for this particular plus pool.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trevor. I want to acknowledge 2 hands that are raised. I'm sorry, Trevor, were you done with your report before I answer any questions?
Yeah, I was just I see Val and Michael in the Q&A.
Go ahead, Val, and then Michael.
Yeah, Trevor, one of the things on that resolution says, and especially the people across the street or something. And the only thing that gets me with that is that, I'm trying to think how to put this, that across the street from there might be predominantly luxury housing. And so I just think one of the things possibly to consider is, housing for like a quarter mile radius or something, so that there remains some low income housing that has something to say about this, because that's my only thought, that across the street is like, could be almost, nothing but luxury housing.
Thank you, Val, for that question. And I'm going to help you figure that out because I'm in the building directly across from this pool, and my building does house low income people. And the building next to me is a building that's all low income, including some formerly homeless people. The building to the left is a Section 8, 2 buildings to that. And there's another affordable building to that particular direction. In that particular paragraph is to help people understand that there are buildings along this particular area that people seem to forget about, including the building that I live in. And that's why I said it's especially important to include outreach to the buildings directly across the street. Just like any other project that you would have in any other district or any other area, the people who are impacted the most sometimes are forgotten about because people don't realize the neighborhood. In our committee meeting, there was someone who said that the Van Gogh stickers pointed to a street with benches on it. And I'm sitting there going, that happens to be the street that I live on. So I understand, but I live here and I can tell you exactly where they're proposing it. And it's right outside my window.
Isn't 1 Manhattan Square right across the street from this place? Because
1 Manhattan Square is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. 1 Manhattan Square is to my right or to the north. They are a little bit out of the footprint for this particular pool. But my focus was to make sure that people who live in the building directly across from this pool are not ignored or forgotten.
Yes.
Because it happens all the time.
And, I don't want to say the other piece to this because, I'm not sure. Like I said, this could end up with luxury housing being the determining factors here. Okay, but fine.
And Val, just to also point out that directly after that, there is a mention where it says pool must be free for everyone and given priority to local residents, conduct outreach to schools and all types of low income buildings. So I think that may address, what is your concern is to make sure the low income development.
Well, my concern is actually that we could end up where luxury housing could possibly be the biggest across the street folks that show up, come out, and demand things. It is highly likely and possible that luxury housing, people that may not even be here yet, become the biggest determinant. That's all, but I'm okay with it.
I can make you a promise, living directly across from the street from this, that is not going to happen. I'll make you a promise on that because I live right across the street.
Wait a minute, Trevor, don't make that promise because there are plans that I don't want to talk about because I know other buildings across the street and they have certain concepts that I think.
Thank you, Val.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I appreciate the comments, Val. Let's move on. Yes.
Yeah, go ahead. I said it.
Thank you.
I'll talk to the people across the street about it. Okay.
So I just wanted to go back to Richard's concerns. And I was just going to say, Trevor, that I agree with you. We're not being used as guinea pigs. I actually have the presentation because it was emailed to me as the host of the meeting so that I can share it in case they had difficulty. So I can email it to Richard, but as I was looking at the presentation, I'm also reminded that all of our meetings are now on YouTube. So Richard and anybody else can actually go to YouTube and watch the meeting and just fast forward through the first 2 hours and get to the Plus Pool presentation, which was literally 10 minutes long. And I think most of your questions or concerns will be probably addressed.
Thank you, Michael. And I try not to watch those over again, but he is correct. They are on YouTube permanently.
Thank you, Trevor. Is there anything else for your committee report?
There is one thing, for those folks who are interested, and we did not, or Parks did not get a lot of folks to sign up for the initial outreach, but the Hamilton Fish Playground is undergoing a renovation, and there will be a community outreach meeting on Thursday, June 24th at 6:30. I'm going to try and drop it in the chat because you need to sign up beforehand. But if you are interested, because they are renovating that playground, or if you know folks who are interested, to please pass this information along. This is the second time they've attempted to do this, and there was only one person sign up, and it was me. So I'm hoping that other folks can sign up and tell other people about this so we can get some folks to help with the design of this particular renovation.
Thank you, Trevor. Okay, seeing no hands up, no more further questions for the committee, we'll move on to the next committee report, and that will be Health, Seniors and Human Services, Youth Education, and Human Rights. Maylee, when you're ready.
Oh, hi, good evening. So our committee has 2 resolutions for you to consider tonight. Okay, there are 2 resolutions related, actually both related to schools and education. So I'll start with the shorter one, which is it's the second one. It's on page 4 or 5 of the vote sheet. It's about BioBus. So BioBus is, they're that STEM program that's in a bus, and a science program for students. So what they're proposing is to build a community, a 4,000 square foot community lab. It's on East 12th Street on the campus that's shared by Eastside Community School and Girls Prep, Lower East Side Middle School. It would be like a permanent hands-on science lab with state-of-the-art research lab, and it would be for the students, but also the good thing is for the entire community as well. They showed us, the lab is not even built yet, but they showed us like a hypothetical calendar of programming, and it would include, allowing community, kids or members to take advantage of this learning program. It's in the vacant courtyard, and I know it's being supported by CEC1 as well. So then the second thing, which is a bit bigger, is the New York, it's the Institute of Collaborative Education. It's currently, it's a middle and high school that's currently on East 15th Street. It shares a school. It's on East 15th Street in the old Stuyvesant High School building, and it's co-located with another school, but they have been outgrowing their building for at least a couple of years now. So they are proposing, they want our support to move into the Marta Valle campus. So that's at 145 Stanton Street, and that the Marta Valle school merged with the other school last year. I think it was United Neighborhood High School. And so there's some empty space there. So they're seeking our support to move into the building. The school has a lot of very progressive and supportive learning programs and environment for the students. It is a middle school and a high school. They are, if they were to be here, they would commit, they say they would prioritize 60% of the seats for District 1 students. And they made a lot of inroads in the, in terms of increasing the diversity of their students and changing their model to be more inclusive. Okay, so they are at the beginning stages of this. They still need to, I think he has, the principal has the support of his superintendent, but he needs support of others at DOE. So he's seeking our support right now. And he does have plans to talk to CEC1, District 1, principals, but, and the principals in this, there are 2 other schools in the building, so he has plans to talk to them as well. Of course, within DOE, you don't just go call the other principal, there's prescribed channels of communications that you use. So that would take a while. So the reso describes that we would support the school to move into the building. It would be like a letter of reso of support. Are there any questions?
I see Lisa Kaplan, you have your hand raised. Go ahead.
Yeah, Lisa.
Thank you. My question is about the BioBus project. You're saying that, I wasn't clear from the reso, but you made it a little clearer in your presentation that it's actually going to be a permanent construction of a new facility. Will it be owned by the Board of Ed? And can you clarify, like, 4,000 square feet new building just for use by District 1? Is that what we're talking about?
Well, I don't know if it's a building necessarily. Some of it is outdoors. I don't know if it's like they're building a whole building in there, you know. I mean, what they showed us. I mean, they have the slide. If you look at if you look at our meetings YouTube video, you'll see the whole slideshow, and some of it is outdoors.
So you don't know what's being constructed?
They showed us a picture of it on the slideshow. So, and nothing's been constructed yet because they don't even have money for it.
But we're supporting it and we don't know what it is.
Yeah, so it's on the school property.
That I know, but I don't know what is on the school property.
Well, yeah, so if you look at the YouTube at the slideshow, you'll see they have a picture of it. If anyone, actually, I don't have it in front of me. So if any committee member actually remembers or wants to describe exactly what it looks like, please feel free.
But it's a permanent structure of some type, and it's 4,000 square feet.
Yeah,
No, the space is 4,000 square feet. Okay, Thomas.
I'd like to clarify. So there's an unused space at the school.
I know that. Yeah.
And that place is going to be occupied by a 2-floor structure that will be a functional lab. It'll serve multi-purposes. I asked during the meeting what kind of egress would they have, and it's entrance only to that facility and out. So it's not going to be access to the school itself. It's going to be a learning hub for all of the students in the district, as well as a place to exchange scientific tools. So they have a partnership with different medical labs, and they'll be storing tools. So students would have access to those tools as an exchange, and also students will be able to take trips there, as well as community members to participate in some real research. So they're just going to occupy that space with a 2-floor facility.
And your understanding is it's a DOE building, a regular school-owned property?
Yeah, it's an extension of a DOE facility.
And it'll be this new building will be owned by DOE. Is you're speculating that that's true?
That's what I surmised from the presentation.
Yeah, that's what I assume too. I mean, it's right on the school's property.
Yeah.
Okay.
Lisa. Thank you, Lisa. Deborah Glass, have your hand raised.
Yeah, I had a question. Hi, everybody. I had a question about the ICE presentation. May, you mentioned, and I just want to clarify if I heard you correctly, that there's a process for ICE to speak to the schools that they would be co-located with, or am I misunderstanding that?
No. Just from I mean, principal to principal. It's not like you just hop on the phone and call them necessarily. You know, if you want something formal from that. I mean, I've learned that before. Sometimes like school. I mean, this is the Department of Education thing. You know, you don't. You have to go through a channel. So that's why it was kind of, he hadn't done all that stuff yet when he came to our meeting, but he had started something.
Right. Okay. So I guess that was the question that I had was, I don't know. I know that Marta Valle moved out to University Neighborhood High School, right? They're no longer in that building.
Yeah.
So who's the other, and I'm sorry, I don't know that particular building, but what schools remain in that building?
Oh, okay. So there's the School for Global Learning. It's a middle school. And then there's Lower East Side Prep.
Okay. And so just to clarify.
And Lower East Side Prep is I think you may have heard of it. It's like
Yeah,
a transfer school
Yeah,
for the older immigrant
I just
kids.
couldn't
Yeah.
remember which schools were in there.
Okay.
So they have not spoken with those schools in terms of
When
co-locating.
when they came to our meeting, yeah, they
Uh-huh.
said they were planning to,
They
because
were
we
planning
asked
to.
about that, because they're also in the building, so you know
Uh-huh.
they ought to talk to them.
Okay, I guess it just would be interesting to know like how that conversation went, you know, like sort of supporting them moving into the space. I don't know how the structure is set up for 3 schools or however number of schools that are in there, sharing that space. So I know that co-locating schools, there's always like drama around it. So I was just curious
Right.
about that.
Yeah, I understand that. So, and we can follow up too, you know.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, is there any other questions for May at this time? Seeing no other questions or hands raised. Thank you, May. Let's go to the next committee report, which is SLA and DCA licensing. Michelle Coopersman.
Thank you, Eric. I'm going to preface my report by saying that my computer crashed this afternoon, so I am working off my phone. So apologies if you ask me any questions that I can't review expediently because I don't have the notes in front of me. But we had 2 denials this month and then 1 applicant who did not sign their stipulations. So we changed that to a recommendation to deny. Stipulations attached, that's 44 Avenue A. And then I just want to, you know, of course, Susan went in depth in her report about some of the issues that we're having writ large. One of the things that we've changed in the past month or so since the outdoor dining stuff changed is that we've begun to add that applicants can only use outdoor dining until 10 p.m. for the duration of the COVID emergency to try and mitigate some of this issues with the lack of curfews, because as Susan said, it was sort of an unintended consequence, and 10 p.m. was the standard that CB3 used for sidewalk cafes when those were still being licensed, which may at some point come back again once the text amendment that we're going to be hearing in July becomes part of the city charter. Just in terms of some of the other issues, just like so everyone knows, and please, like community board members, if you ever want to ask questions, please email me about it. But one thing to just remember about the applications that we look at is that, you know, we look at, you know, there's a lot of things to weigh, obviously, as we do this work. One thing that's very obvious to us is how we look at previously unlicensed versus previously licensed locations. Other things that we look at are adverse history of applicants, adverse history of that specific location. Those are all things that the SLA takes into account. So for example, if previously unlicensed versus previously licensed locations, the SLA looks at them differently. They don't necessarily see relicensing a previously licensed location as adding to the area. So like when we talk about the 500-foot rule, that, and this doesn't mean that all of those applications will be approved, but there is a different standard. So that's just one thing to keep in mind. And then, you know, I've talked to some members of the board who came to the meeting just to reiterate that unfortunately it can take a lot for the SLA at the state level to deny a license. There's a lot of times need to be really egregious behavior for that to happen. So just so everyone knows, the SLA is comprised of 3 commissioners. So it's not like you're, you know, there's a firm outcome every time, right? There's 3 different people voting on these applications. If you ever want to watch their YouTube the meetings, they're on YouTube right now. Unfortunately, they're not open because of COVID. I don't know why the heck they haven't been able to figure out how to use Zoom, but they are closed to us. We cannot go to the meetings to testify, which was a thing pre-COVID. We had a meeting with the SLA chair last week, and they did not have a timeline for when the hearing meeting room, which is in Harlem, will be open. So that was upsetting, honestly. So I just wanted to give those sort of PSAs. And again, like I said, you know, feel free to ask me any questions, you know, during the month or whatever. Okay, and I see David Crane from the committee has his hand up. Oh, sorry, I have one friendly amendment. Thomas, I sent it to you earlier for number 19, 212 Avenue A. This is a denial. We obtained some additional information from the SLA after the committee meeting about the applicant's adverse history. So I just wanted to add that information to the resolution. Essentially, it's about how the applicant was part of a sweep by the SLA in October, and his license was revoked at the time. And then in June 2021, the applicant submitted an offer of cancellation and bond to the SLA for its original license at this location. So if there are any objections, this would be the time to raise it to that friendly amendment to number 19. Okay, hearing no objections, Thomas, thank you. If you would just mind accepting those track changes that I sent you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And then David, I see your hand.
Yes,
David, go ahead.
I want to make, am I unmuted?
Yep,
I would like
we
to
can hear
make, I would like to make 2 amendments to SLA item 19. Thomas, I had sent you an email. So I moved to amend SLA 19 to insert 5 paragraphs outlining the adverse history at 2 existing establishments operated by the applicant. I am hoping, Thomas, that you can bring up the text, like in the minutes form perhaps, and then like using track changes, drop my paragraphs in. If that's not possible, I can read the outline of them, but they're quite lengthy. I reserve the right to speak to this amendment once it gets.
I do have what you sent.
Is it possible to display on the screen?
Thomas, I just made you the co-host. If you want to share your screen, you can do that.
Okay, I can display what was sent to me. I just not able to merge it at this moment, but it will be merged with the document, if that's okay with you, David.
Sure, as long as you get it's an addition. So if you get the text up there, I'd appreciate it.
Let me share that right now, just to make sure that we're on the same page as well. Is this the one, David?
It is.
Okay.
No, it's not that one. That's
not
number.
that one.
This is
Sorry.
not it.
I think you mean
Correct,
number
this is
6,
not it.
David.
Number 6?
Yeah, 109.
Okay, then number
Ludlow.
6 it is. How did I get 19? I'm sorry, I've been working so hard on this.
Number
It
19
was like
is the
late
one that
breaking.
Thomas has up right now.
So Thomas, this is not it. It's item number 6, but my email contained an amendment to it. By the way, this is 109 Ludlow Street, which was discussed by the public quite a bit. I apologize.
Thomas, David
for
sent you at
that
like
mixed up.
719. Sorry, in the same thread.
Yeah, what is it called again?
Amendment 109 Ludlow SLA. That's the name of the document. Sorry, what's the name of the email?
Yes.
The title of the email is
Friendly amendment for SLA item number 19. Thanks everyone for bearing with.
part of it I'll do as friendly, and part of it, we'll want to discuss, I'm sure.
Okay.
I'm going to start
Believe I have.
my explanation while he brings it up. These are factual paragraphs about adverse history for this applicant, which I believe we could adopt as a friendly amendment. So that is, if there's no objection to this. When the committee met, we weren't aware of this history, but the LES dwellers were helpful in bringing this to our attention a few hours ago. They point out that adverse history is one of the most influential maybe factors in why the New York State Liquor Authority denies liquor license. So it's important to include these factual paragraphs. Well, they all start basically, it starts with this. Whereas there is a long adverse history at 2 existing businesses, both known as Gray Lady, operated by the applicant. One of these businesses is located at 77 Delancey Street, and the other is located at 440 West Lake Street in Montauk, New York. And then there are 4 other paragraphs with bullet points of all the violations for which we know they have paid fines, which is some of them substantial. I believe the number 30,000 was mentioned by an applicant, by a member of the public. That's in the right ballpark. I'm sure it's accurate. Just haven't added the numbers myself. Are you not finding it?
I have it now. I'm sorry about that. I'm trying to share my screen now.
Thanks, thanks.
Thank you for your patience.
I'm in no rush.
All right, so this is the one right here?
This is. So
Okay.
I've just read for y'all the first one, the first whereas that I want to add. And like I said, the other three are lists of prior adverse history that the SLA was considering at a couple points in time. Such things as violating maximum occupancy, various local regulations. There's noise in there. If you scroll down toward the end, toward one page down, there's one for disorderly premises. So these, I would like us to, yeah, I wouldn't go that far down yet. So I would like us to adopt these. If there's no objection or if there's no discussion, actually, I'm gonna let you do this portion. Michelle, and come back to me.
Okay, thanks, David. So as David said, he'd like to add these histories, which is factual from documents obtained from the SLA after the committee meeting. So if there are any objections, this would be the time to raise your objections to this amendment, this friendly amendment. I see other people with their hands up, but I'm not sure. Can you just unmute yourself and say object if you have an objection?
I have a question.
No, only if you have an objection to this friendly amendment.
I have a question,
I have an
Okay.
objection.
but I have a question before I answer you.
I have an
what's your
objection
question?
after she answers your
So-
question.
So
let's-
if I have no objection to this, are we then going to discuss this? And we can discuss this?
We
before it
can
goes
discuss the
through?
rest of the resolution. This is only about this one amendment.
Okay.
And there's a second
All right, so-
amendment that I think you're anticipating, Rob.
But
and I
hold
will
on,
do a
but
second one
David,
shortly.
David, hold on. Carlin objected, so
I understand.
Yeah, yes, I objected to this friendly amendment. Shouldn't this be pulled for a roll call vote?
sure, we can do a roll call
This
vote.
one item?
Yep, we can do
So-
a roll call.
No, could we pull this item for a separate vote?
Sorry, I'm confused. Are you asking about, this is only about adding this information to the general resolution.
Which item number is this?
Number 6, 109
Oh,
Ludlow
this is
Street.
6/109, okay.
Carlin, if you're asking, can I vote no on this item? Just hold on. This is really only for this addition that David is proposing that's on the screen right now.
Well,
have a
I'm
question,
saying
David
that-
Adam.
I'm saying that since this information was not available at committee, shouldn't we pull this item right now and open it up for discussion? And
Can we add this information to the resolution first and then do that? That's what's going to happen next.
okay, you want to add this information first and then pull the
Discuss.
item for
Correct.
the discussion for
Correct.
separate vote.
Is that okay?
Oh,
So
okay,
no
that's
objection to
fine.
this amendment? Okay.
That's cool. That's cool.
Okay. All right. So
I
So
have a
David,
quick
is that-
question, David Adams.
go ahead, David.
Is the person making the request at the meeting now?
Do you mean the applicant?
Yes.
Yes, but that is not what we're doing right now.
No, I
Do you want-
understand that, but I mean, if we have a discussion without the applicant, that might not be considered.
The applicant is here,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so again, if there's any objection to this friendly amendment, please voice that objection now, but only to this friendly amendment. We will open it up to discussion about the whole resolution in a moment. Okay, I'm hearing no objection to this friendly amendment. So Thomas, maybe it would be helpful if you could pull up the whole resolution with this addition.
If I can, Michelle, we
Yeah.
are discussing this. My amendment is, is one, is the first
Yes.
comment essentially being
Right,
made in
so I'm just-
discussion.
I'm just
And when
asking if,
I understand,
if
and I have a
Thomas
second.
can bring up the whole thing.
I know. I have a second amendment. And then
Go
after that,
ahead.
there's a couple of raised hands, and Carlin may be one of those raised hands. I'm not sure of that.
Yeah, go
But
ahead,
this
David.
okay, so I would also like to amend it. We don't yet have the ability to put it up. But I have, if you scroll down, Second Amendment, I move to amend SLA item 6 To replace the therefore be it resolved paragraphs of our resolution will be an outright denial for this application, rather than a denial unless stipulation, conditional approval like we usually do. I believe, watching back and forth at things. Oh, excellent. You've got the text there. I believe that sending an outright denial for this application is absolutely the right thing for CB3 to do in light of new information we got tonight regarding violations at existing businesses operated by the same applicant. I believe this resolution will make a strong case for the SLA to deny the application. Why do I believe that? Because the SLA considers various factors about an application, including first, adverse history at the location, which was already explained in the resolution out of committee. And second, adverse history of the applicant, which we now know exists and which we explained by adopting my previous amendment. This location is on one of the crossroads of Hell Square, a heavily saturated area with a history of quality of life issues with horrific noise and traffic congestion. Please urge you to vote for my amendment to deny this application. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, David. Is there a second?
Yes.
Yes, I will second that.
Okay. Okay, great. So
I like
we
the
can-
motion
now
to
we
call
are-
the question too.
All in favor? You have to do an all in favor. Motion to.
You know,
pass.
you
Well,
can't
no,
just
no, no.
interrupt and, okay, stop. You can't interrupt and call the question, and that can only be done when your hand is recognized, which Michelle will now do in order.
Okay, so we've heard the seconds. So, all right, so hold on, I see the hands up. Okay, so just, I don't know if all the hands up are about this particular item. So Josie, is your hand up about this item?
No,
Josie?
it's not. It's about,
Okay.
about another item.
Okay, all right. Lisa, is your hand up about this item?
No.
Okay. Robin, is your hand up about this item?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
I had questions about this item, but this second amendment has changed that. I no longer need to ask my question. Thank you.
Okay, okay, great, thank you. Trevor, is your hand up about this item?
Yes, just procedure wise, are we at the point that David has made a amendment and we're trying to find out whether we approve of this amendment? Because we're not voting
Yes.
on the resolution.
So the amendment's on the floor right now, and so we're discussing this motion yeah, we're discussing the amendment, which is part of the motion, so.
Okay.
Which could be part of the motion.
All right.
I'm
That's
just
just
seeing if
my-
anyone wants to, talk about this this denial amendment.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we understand because this is a little different than what we normally do when we deny. It usually doesn't come in the form of an amendment, but I understand and I want to make sure that we're aware of the procedure we're following.
Yes, thank you, Trevor. So is that just procedural question?
Yes, that's it.
Okay. Okay, David Crane, I think your hand is up just because you made the amendment, right? Okay. All right, Carlin, you're next.
Did I already speak about this? All right,
Well-
have we voted to
I'm-
accept the
No, I'm
amendment?
recognizing you to discuss this amendment about the denial.
No, I'll call the question then.
So you second
Okay.
the motion. Okay. And then
Did you
Herman?
second it, Eric?
It doesn't need a second. Michelle, you
call
need
it
to
in.
ask, basically, I don't know how to do this over Zoom efficiently, but if the majority, you could ask if anyone feels the need to continue discussion. Otherwise, we'll go straight into a vote.
Okay,
could do
is
it
there
that
anyone
way.
okay, and I will say, if you have the need to continue discussion, please raise your Zoom hand. Discussion on this amendment. Robin, your hand's up.
So again, procedural, we vote to approve this, a second amendment, and then this will change the resolution for this line item. And then when we
Correct,
go
to
to
a
vote
denial.
later, fine, okay, that's my question, thank you.
Yep.
You got it, Robin. That's absolutely correct.
Okay, so I don't see any other hands. So David, would you suggest that we go to a roll call vote now for this amendment?
If there's,
Or should
you
I
could ask
ask
you
if
could
there's
ask about-
objection?
Yeah.
Okay, okay, so is there any objection to this amendment that David proposed, which is on your screen right now, that we change this from basically an approval of stipulations to a denial? please raise your Zoom hand if you have any objections to this amendment.
Trevor.
Okay, Trevor has his hand up. Okay, so we're gonna have to go into a roll call vote.
No, I'm sorry. That's
oh.
not for an objection. That's just a question. No. The
Okay,
question is,
okay.
what was the, and I don't see here, but what was the committee vote on this particular thing? And was the committee aware of this new information?
So the community vote was unanimous in support of the resolution, but no, we were not aware of this information at the committee meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask one more time. Is there any objections to this amendment as appears on your screen? If there's objections, we will go into a roll call vote. Please raise your Zoom hand if you're objecting to the amendment.
See none.
Okay, I'm not seeing any Zoom hands. So this amendment is adopted for the motion. Thomas, there's gonna be a couple of other things that need to change in here just because we're gonna have to change the title to of the resolution to recommendation to deny. And we're gonna take away the stipulations, just that transparently so everyone knows, but I can send you, what that will look like, Thomas, if that's okay.
I appreciate it. 'Cause
Sure, I know it's confusing. And when I say that I'm going to send it to you, I will send it to you as soon as I can because I don't have a computer right now, but when my boyfriend gets home, I'll use his.
Thomas, I'm sorry, Thomas, are you able to copy and paste this in the correct placing?
I can put it in the correct placing. It's just that the document that I'm working.
There's other changes.
It's a it's a PDF, which is a little bit different than.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, it's doable, but I don't want to take everyone.
I'll send it to you, Thomas. Okay, don't worry about it. All right. Are there any other questions on SLA? I know that there were other hands before, but they went down. I think Josie and Lisa. Okay, Lisa, go ahead.
Yeah, could you give me a little bit more context on the 44 Avenue A determination that there could only be liquor sold during a performance? As everybody heard, the owner or the applicant was on and said that would keep him from being in a position to open this art theater that might be a real asset to the community. And it seemed a little drastic to say with a 1 a.m. closing that we wouldn't consider this in a locale that already had at least a wine and beer license. So I'd like to understand better the rationale here.
Sure. Yeah. So this applicant actually came before us twice. This is June, he came in May. I urge you to take a look at the YouTube video to see how he berated us and was really, really disrespectful. I believe David Crane said that it was concerning about how he might respond to community complaints. David, if I'm misquoting you, please let me know. He had a long record at another location in Mulberry Street for noise complaints, which was also concerning. He after the meeting, he then went to the blogs and to the BP's office and lied about what happened in an attempt to get his way. He was, I would say, nasty to us as well. The committee was unanimous in supporting these stipulations. This, as David said so eloquently, because of the SLA considers issues with problems with locations. This is a location with a history of problems when it was the UCB Theater. And I should say that the UCB Theater had a very similar stipulation that the bar was only open to theater goers. That was an attempt to not turn it into another bar that people could just stop in on a already crowded block. And just to say, no one opposes drinking in the theater or being able to serve to patrons. We wanted to support it, but just didn't want it to do it in a different way from how we've traditionally done it with theaters in CV3.
Can I just ask a follow-up? The nastiness and the aggressiveness that you describe is really disquieting. I hear that. But the resolution said there were only 2 complaints. Are you aware of additional complaints?
What are you, sorry, hold on. 2 complaints in what context?
Well, I'm just reading from your.
I know, sorry, I'm just gonna try and pull it up. I don't have them in front of me. June.
I can't find the exact section either, but whereas,
Okay, so well, I'm referring to the issues at Mulberry Street. That 147,
I see,
145,
I see
board
it.
47,
I
there
see
were
it now.
32
I'm
commercial,
sorry.
yeah.
Got it. Yeah, I hear you.
That's okay.
Thank you.
Yep, of course. Okay, Josie, go ahead. Josie, you're muted if you're speaking.
You mute, Josie.
I'm sorry, I'm here talking, nobody's hearing me.
Go ahead.
I wanted to talk about the Lighthouse Immersive and how you're saying that it's denied, but the stipulations that you're agreeing to, and they're mentioning things that they say they do and yet they don't. So I'm trying to figure, I'm sorry I wasn't at that meeting. I'm really sorry. I didn't realize it till after. The control of the crowds, they have no control of the crowds. I mean, I live right across the street, okay? As far as bathrooms, they use Gouverneur Gardens as their bathroom. Okay, I mean, I have a lot of issues with this. Okay, you're also saying trash receptacles that they have. I have been after them for years. You can ask Susan about putting receptacles. They throw the garbage and broken bottles, they just throw them on our sidewalks. Security, there is no security. And another thing, how come we're letting them stay open until 10 o'clock? I mean, why? And why are they opening up at 9 in the morning to start drinking, to be drunk at 9 in the morning and start going around our neighborhood being, you know, disruptive? Another thing, they're across the street from a school. I mean, I have a lot of issues with this. I'm so sorry. I do not agree with anything.
Okay, thanks, Josie, for your comments. Oh, someone. Sorry, I'm getting feedback. Is anyone else getting that?
I think it's coming through Josie's.
Oh, Josie, do you mind just muting yourself? Because I think we're getting some feedback. Oh, thank you. Well, I will just say that one of the original on the Van Gogh, they had initially asked for outdoor drinking, which we kiboshed immediately because of all the concerns that you described, Josie, because they, you know, so the bar that they are going to be operating, it's only until September 6th, I believe, is like in the interior of the exhibit. So there will not be any drinking outside. It's only going to be indoors. It's, from what we understand, like an absinthe bar. It's not like you know, and people are not allowed to stay forever at that place either. It's relatively small, it's temporary, and we made it very clear to them that we are concerned about all the things that you said. So that's why we included those stipulations in the license. That means that if they violate them, we can, you know, like complain to the SLA, which is something that I actually meant to say at the up of this, is just, if you see violations of people's stipulations, you should submit SLA complaints on the website. They make it very, very easy, actually, because as Susan mentioned, they are no longer doing proactive sweeps. They're only responding to complaints. So I actually filed one this week against a place on Lower Orchard Street for serving beyond their storefront. So I would encourage you to do that. Obviously, talk to the office if you see any of those problems, but just the reality for this location was that Basketball City had already gotten a liquor license, and the likelihood that they were not going to get this was very, very low. So it was important that we include all these stipulations in it. That came from, you know, community concerns that were raised about the general area, which I know that some of it comes from the party buses that dock over there as well. Which is, you know, again, why we said no outdoor drinking. Like they said, they want them to be able to drink and like look at the view. We were like, absolutely not. That's illegal. Like you cannot drink outside. So, so I think, you know, we tried to do our best here of mitigating any potential issues.
Thank you, Michelle. I see that we still have two more hands.
Trevor, do you want to comment on that? Because you were there, or is your hand for something else?
It's just getting unmuted, and that's the reason for all the stipulations, although someone had mentioned a nearby park, but we didn't talk much about, or the stipulations don't really reflect that. They're more about the trash and bathroom issues. But as you know, Josie, the main issue behind there, and this will probably have to come up at a later time, is the party boats, because those are the people responsible for the urination, the trash, and it's been going on for years. This is just a temporary installation. Party boats are a whole nother story. And I know you say you live across, although, you know, there's been a sort of a weird definition of who lives across from particular sites, but I understand that you live across from that particular site. But a lot of that's coming from those party boats, which we've had years of problems with that particular area.
Thanks, Trevor. Robin, do you have a question about this one?
I'm just curious how much, you know, there seems to be two ways to approve or deny these alcohol permits, and one would be the rulings of, you know, as you said, previous history with noise complaints and violations and all those kinds of things, location, all the sort of regulations that you're talking about. But then how much is, where does the community voice, what percentage of the community's you know, opposition to something comes into play here? Because can't you just, I'm curious about that. Maybe I need to come to some meetings, but like, why can't you just deny this art exhibition, for example, say, no alcohol, sorry, too bad.
Because then the
And move
SLA
on.
will, if we just deny everything, the SLA will stop. We will look foolish if we do that.
Well, but if this neighborhood is inundated and saturated with bars, I don't know what we can do as a community to put a stop. Thank you, Susan. You'll tell me to put a stop on bars and alcohol. And this is a neighborhood. This is a purely residential neighborhood that's been having so many problems with people who are drunk off these boats. You know, someone has one of those specialty drinks that they're serving for this exhibition, 4 or 5 of those, and you're drunk. So, you know, so I think that I don't know what we need to do and how we can get this some political sway or something done to
Yeah,
save
I mean,
it.
I totally hear you. And it's like I said, we are always weighing these questions when we're in committee. And just if we deny everything, we'll look very foolish. Like the SLA.
We're not saying,
you know,
no one is saying deny everything, but deny most things. I mean, anyway, Susan, please fill me in.
Michelle,
Can
are
we
you,
just make their time from 9 to 9 instead of
Excuse me.
giving another
Okay.
hour?
you're not recognized.
Michelle, are you, I can't raise my hand. I wasn't clear. Are you
Oh,
calling
sorry,
on me?
I couldn't. Robin, I was like, I mean, maybe this is not the right time to do this, but you know, it's I think Herman described it as being between a rock and a hard place in a lot of ways, that there are, as you say, like a lot of institutional and external factors that are working against us in a lot of ways. But Susan, do you want to say something about this?
Yeah, I mean, it isn't just, I mean, we wouldn't carry weight if we denied everything, but beyond that, there are legal reasons. So applicants sue the SLA. When the SLA denies them, they sue for administrative appeal. It's called an Article 78. And this happens, it used to happen frequently. And it certainly informs how the SLA approves and doesn't approve. In this particular case, they will consider economic reasons. This is something the city is doing to increase tourism and come back from COVID. The city has been working with them on this. And you know, that is absolutely going to enter into it. Everything you say about the party boats is true, but the SLA can't consider the party boats for something that is not associated with the party boats, even though the cumulative effect on you is really horrible.
No, but for example, today, this new information that you all got for this 109 Ludlow has changed your resolution. And why did it take that to change the resolution? Why wasn't the factors of community voices and the location and the fact that it's open to 4 a.m? I don't know why those factors didn't lead you to deny the application. But maybe I don't understand.
Susan, go ahead.
Because the community voices are very important, but also in this case, I'm not talking about this case specifically, but there are other issues such as legal issues or, the tourism and that kind of thing that people who are suffering from one thing may not be taking into consideration. It's a more global consideration. And in some cases, like, 109 Ludlow, it does change the outcome, and in others, it doesn't. But it's, again, there's a lot of issues the SLA must consider legally that we're not talking about in our community.
Thanks, Susan. Trevor, did you want to respond or say something else? Or
Just one thing, because I think it's important to understand. I live in this particular area also, that the majority of this traffic and the drunkenness is coming from the party boats and always has been. What we were trying to do is get some bathrooms in there and some trash receptacles, because to be honest, most people stay there about 45 minutes to an hour, and they're not really going to be using the outdoor porta potties. And what Michelle and Susan were talking about, sometimes we need to put stipulations in so that we can get some sort of relief from this particular activities. Be honest, I will say that most of the traffic comes from the party boats, but we were trying to get some bathrooms in that particular area because there are none outdoors. And that may not be from the Van Gogh exhibit itself, but we were trying to say that people down there and, so we're trying to solve a solution by using that particular stipulation. But just to understand that it's after September, the party boats are still going to be going on, and we're still going to have a bigger problem because there will be no bathrooms and no receptacles.
And one thing I'll mention also is that around 109 Ludlow, there were actually 29 residents from the block who signed a petition in support of it, including 7 residents of the building. So we also have to take that into account. And that, we reinstated petitioning specifically so that we could better gauge, community involvement, because not everyone can show up to the meetings. So
I'd love to know what made them all want to support that club that's open at 4 o'clock in the morning in their building. That's for another time.
And the petitions were vetted. I worked to vet them. You can see right here next to my desk that I highlighted all the people for the different petitions. If anyone wants to call into question my work, they can come over to my apartment and see how much time I spend on this. And I want to say that everyone has different opinions. That's what's important about our community, is that we listen to everybody. So
yes,
just because you show up to the meetings does not mean, and you're the loudest voice in the room, does not mean that you get special treatment. I just want to say that for everyone, because not everyone can come to the meetings. Not everyone has childcare. Not everyone even knows that it's happening. So maybe they met the applicant on the street and they decided that they like the person and they would like another place in their neighborhood. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yes.
So David, I see your hand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I share the frustration with feeling that we must approve so many licenses. It is a very complex and ever-evolving political situation. We all need to understand that there are 3 people. I'm pretty sure they're all 3 men at this point, one from New York City. There are not. Okay, I have been proved wrong. There are 3 people, one of who's from New York City, who decide whether the license get issued. And there's all kinds of case law surrounding it, as Susan was discussing. Anyway, I'm less concerned about our reputation if we start denying a few more of these things, because we're not anywhere near the point where we'd be like, oh, that's just CB3 saying no. What I am concerned about in most situations is what happens if we say deny outright and the SLA does approve it. So I want to talk about the 109 Ludlow that we had done. I wasn't for it at committee for the longest time. It went on a long time. But I didn't see a preponderance of evidence that I thought was going to convince the SLA. And so what I had in front of me and what you had in front of you before you adopted my amendment tonight were stipulations that said they would close by 1 a.m. on the weeknights, roughly, okay? That was a win, all right? They were not going to be open until 4 a.m. The thing that would happen if we, now, when we send this to the SLA, if the SLA decides to go ahead and grant the license, they don't have our guidance about what we wanted in stipulations. They might go with 1 a.m., they might go with 4 a.m. It'll have to be, they'll have to make their decision up there without CB3 input. They'll probably have the LES dwellers up there. I guess it's on Zoom. But the only stipulations that they are like, Susan may be able to say this better than me, but the only stipulations that we can expect from the SLA are no live music, no DJs, no promoted events, and then maybe there'll be a time of closing restriction, which might or might not be reasonable. No other stipulation will be picked up, and we will not have told them. Anyway, that's what the balance is, and that is really why. I mean, my mind was changed as soon as we had adverse history to write down for this applicant for the 109 Ludlow Street. It's a rock and a hard place, and I would like it to change, but we need to be strategic. Thank you.
Thank you, David. There's a
Thanks.
hand raised.
Jesse, go ahead.
Yeah, I would just want to jump in with, these are the conversations we're having at the committee. These are the weights that we're going back and forth on. These is everything that you're hearing here, that Michelle said, that David said. These are the things that we consider, and I think it's important to remember that. You know, there's a lot of, you know, sometimes stuff coming out about, you know, like, because we're doing things where we're, you know, less of a New Yorker, less of a Lower East Sider, and we don't care about, you know, the community. But, you know, this is hours that we put in because we care about this. And I think that's important to remember, that it's not always an easy decision. It's not an always up or down vote that it takes, you know, 5 minutes. So I think it's just important to remember that, you know, no one wants to tear apart the fabric of our, you know, neighborhood. We're all trying to do what we think is right and weigh the decisions that we think that we need to. So anyway.
Thank you, Jesse. Josie, do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, Michelle, I just want to know who's going to make sure that they're going to put toilets? Who's going to make sure that they're going to put receptacles? I mean, at least this will help some of the problem, but I just want to make sure who is going to be in charge of that. Because I've been after Basketball City to get receptacles for years and they still have not done it.
Susan, do you want to speak to that?
Sure. Basketball City doesn't have stipulations with us, so there's no legal requirement. If when the this applicant signs the stipulations, the SLA puts that as a method of operation for the license. So it is now a legal state document that they must do this. So if they don't, the people in the area are going to notice, they're going to tell me, and we'll then go to the SLA. The SLA does believe in enforcing stipulations. Our problem is sometimes getting the inspectors down, but if it's a clear stipulation violation, that is much easier to get enforced.
And Michelle, you mentioned earlier a link to do a report of SLA to the SLA.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have my computer, but if you just Google SLA complaint, like MYS or something, you should be able to find it. It's pretty easy.
I would suggest that you should also always let the office know for follow-up.
Yeah, same with 301 complaints.
Great, that can be helpful for the members.
Okay, thank you, everyone. I don't see any other hands. Oh, thank you, Jeanette. One of our new members, Jeanette, just sent the link to everybody.
Oh, great, thank you. Our newest member providing that resource for all of us. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
2 more committee reports. Next one is sorry, 3 more. Next one is Landmarks Committee, Linda Jones.
Linda is not here tonight.
Okay. Anybody from the committee that is prepared to share?
I don't think they met this month.
Okay. Moving to the next committee.
Wait, they met last night, but they have not submitted minutes yet, so we have nothing.
Thank you, Susan.
Next committee report is Land Use, Zoning, Public. Jack.
Thank you, Eric. So I guess before my report, I just wanted to say that I understand committee members are very, committee members and community board members and public members are very passionate about our community topics, but I just want to remind everyone, do not put your opinions in the chat box. We've been talking about that many times. I just want to remind everyone about that again. So on land use, we had a wrestle on hotel tax amendment. Basically, this is a plan to ask future hotel developments to obtain a permit from City Planning Commission so that they don't impair the future use of developments of the surrounding areas. So what happened is that in the future, hotels cannot be built as of right anymore. This is a restriction on future hotel developments, and the committee agrees to it. But according to a DCP study, the future demand of hotel rooms would exceed supply in 2025. So we worry that may encourage more illegal Airbnb business when hotel demand is higher than supply, which may reduce the permanent housing units from the market. So when we approve this restrictive tax amendment, we also add a condition that we want the city to step up on their enforcement on illegal short-term subleasing. And also NYCHA, we didn't meet in June. That's all I have for land use.
Any questions for Jackie at this time? Okay. Seeing none, we'll go on to the next committee report, and that is Personnel and Board Member Matters Task Force. There was no meeting, correct?
Oh, we had a meeting.
Yes.
Good. Go ahead,
A
Meg.
good meeting where, yeah, it was about, hi everyone. So the meeting was about hiring and selecting the new assistant district manager. Okay, so I'm going to, so you see a reso on the a thing to be voted on the vote sheet, but I'm going to describe to you a little bit about the process and the background. And then after that, I'm going to tell you that we're going to have to amend the reso because of some new information since the meeting. So, so as you know, all know Jim Shelton, our former ADM, left to take another position. So we have a vacant position. And so after that, the job was posted on several websites. It was on our CB3 website. It was on the New York City Jobs website. We also sent, Susan sent it to some of the local New York City planning schools, the professional planning associations, and also one of the general job boards. I think it was Indeed.com. So it was publicized very widely. And they received a number of interviews. So all candidates went through 2 rounds of interview. The first round is with Jim and Susan. And then those deemed still viable go on to the second round, which is with the personal task force. So, so after the first round, there were 3 qualified candidates that were sent to the personnel task force for round 2. But before we had our meeting, one of the candidates withdrew because they took another job offer. So at the meeting, we only interviewed 2 candidates. So the interviews were, it's a structured interview and it covers 4 or 5 different skill and knowledge areas, you know, to ask questions about that. And also the task force members ranked to them and then decided that the job could be offered to both, but it would be according to the ranking. So that's sort of what you see in the reso. But after the interview, I think a day or a couple of days after, one of the candidates decided to accept a job interview that they had received. An offer they had received. So we now have 1 remaining candidate. And so I'm going to, there's going to be a reso that talks more about offering the job to the 1 remaining candidate. But before I do that, I just want to let you know a little bit about this candidate because I just, you know, it's hard if you don't even know who I'm talking, you know, what kind of person I'm talking about. So this candidate attended the University of Illinois at Chicago as an undergraduate and received a master's in urban planning from Hunter College in 2017. the candidate has worked for consulting firms and advocacy organizations in the area of transportation planning, but wants to broaden their work into other areas of planning. During the work with the advocacy organizations, they did a lot of community outreach and neighborhood presentations as part of the job. Also has some experience with community boards, mainly through, while at Hunter College in the urban planning program, there were some presentations that needed to be done at community boards in the New York City community boards. And finally, this candidate also speaks Spanish and English. Okay. So given that, we're not, there is this one candidate, we want to offer the position to, if there's a different kind of resolution. And before I put that up, I just wanted to know if there were any objection to considering the revised resolution as opposed to this one. Okay. It looks like there aren't. So I could read it if Thomas could show it. Okay, so this is what the amended reso says. Whereas the Personnel Task Force conducted second round job interviews with 2 candidates. After conducting these interviews, the candidates were ranked in order of preference. Whereas it was decided that an offer should be made to the first choice candidate, but if the first choice declined, an offer would be made to the second choice. Whereas since the time of the interview, one candidate informed the district manager of decision to accept another offer recently received. Therefore, be it resolved to approve the Personnel Task Force recommendation for the district manager to offer the assistant district manager position to the remaining candidate. So that's the amended reso. Are there any questions? Or is there something else I'm supposed to do?
I don't see any hands up or question. I see Lisa Kaplan.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just a little confused. This candidate was interviewed, right?
Yes. This is, yeah. So yes, everybody was in. They were interviewed.
I'm not sure I understand why we had to do an alternate resolution, because you couldn't offer it to the first, so you offered it to the second. But fine, just getting clarity.
Yeah, so I just want to be clear that we're offering it to one right now. I mean, a week ago it was 2, now it's 1. So if you're passing a reso, you're not passing a reso, to offer to number 1 and then number 2. We're just offering it to 1 because there is 1 who is qualified. There are no longer 2. All right, I guess that's it.
Clarifying for you, Lisa. Okay, I see the hand withdrawn. Okay, so that will go into the, okay, I see that. That will go into the record.
Yeah, so it completely replaces the other one.
Okay, at this stage in the agenda, it looks like we are about ready to do our final roll call vote to approve the committee resolutions. Okay. Let's continue with that to close out the evening. So Tomas, when you're ready, we can do the final roll call. This is the roll call for all the resolutions that have been discussed today.
Okay, give me a second and I'll pull it up.
No problem. again, just so you, you got it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna start the roll call and then let me know what you decide. David Adams.
Yes.
Yaron Altman.
Yes, present, not voting on transportation 3, please. I work for New York City DOT.
Okay, so present not voting for, please repeat.
Transportation number 3, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jesse Beck.
Yes.
Lee Berman.
Yes, except no on SLA items 1, 7, 17, and 21.
Thank you. Carlin Chan.
Yes.
Jonathan Chu.
Yes, present non-voting SLA, is it number 6? Because I manage the property.
Okay. David Crane.
Yes.
Eric Diaz.
Yes.
Alistair Economakis.
Yes.
Jamie Felber. Jamie Felber. Okay. Charlie's not here. Ryan Gilliam.
Yes.
Deborah Glass.
Yes, but no on SLA 2, no on SLA 21.
Thank you. Andrea Gordillo. Andrea Gordillo. Okay. Danielle Hernandez.
Yes.
Herman Hewitt.
Yes.
Trevor Holland.
Yes.
Linda Jones. Linda Jones.
It's gone.
All right, thank you. Valentina Jones. Valentina Jones. Okay. Tatiana Jorio. Tatiana, okay. Lisa Kaplan.
Yes, on everything except health and education and youth and et cetera, number 3, abstain on that.
Thank you. So I just want to be clear, Lisa. So you said that it's no for health and human services number 3?
No, I said abstain.
Abstain. Thank you. Just wanted to clarify. Thank you. Olympia is not here, right?
Right.
Jeanette Kim.
Yes.
Michelle Cooper Smith.
Yes.
Mei Lee.
Yes.
Wendy Lee. Wendy Lee, no, it's not here. Okay. Alicia Lewis Coleman. Is Alicia present?
No.
David Louis.
Yes.
Laura Lugo.
I abstain.
Ellen Luo.
Yes.
Michael Marino.
No on SLA 2, 4, 7, and 21. Yes to everything else.
Thank you. Alexandria, she's not here, right?
Right.
Okay. Michael Perez?
Yes. Sorry, my dog is barking.
Thank you. Tariq Ramos? Tariq Ramos. Okay. Paul Rangel?
Yes.
Maris Reyes?
Yes.
Richard Ropiak?
Abstain on park item number 4. Yes on everything else.
Thank you. Thomas Rosa? Yes. Robin Chattel?
Yes on everything except SLA number 4, no.
Heidi Schmidt?
Not here.
Okay, thank you. Larissa's not here. Anisha?
Yes.
Sandra Strother? Sandra? No Sandra. Daniel? Daniel Tynow? Is he still with us? Daniel? Okay.
Yes, but no on SLA 21.
Thank you. Josephine Velez?
Yes on everything but SLA 21.
Troy Velez?
Yes.
Rodney Washington?
Yes.
Thomas, Jonathan is in the chat, changed his vote on one of them. Maybe he could tell us, give us the number. Jonathan, what number are you, what agenda item are you changing your vote on? It's the one at 46 Bowery. He's changing it to present not voting. Evidently, he's associated with it.
I think, Susan, he's not in the meeting anymore, but I think when he said number 6, because he managed the property, he meant this property. He had the number wrong, I think.
No, I think he manages both. So,
That's 14, number 14.
yeah, but I don't think he said numbers. See, what number did he say, Thomas, originally?
It's 46 Bowery is what he wants.
Right, I know, but the other one that he manages is
Ludlow, is Ludlow, 119 Ludlow, let me see.
okay, so number 6.
So they should both be present, not voting. That way it doesn't carry as a yes or
So
no.
6 and 14.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification. Kathleen Webster?
Yes.
Jackie Wong?
Yes.
Ricky Wong? Ricky?
Yes. Yes.
I heard a yes. Thank you. That concludes our roll call.
Thomas, Robin also. I'm sorry, well, Robin has a change in the
Thank you.
chat.
Thank you.
Okay, what do you have? Let me,
Yeah, I forgot to do this earlier and people reminded me as I went along, but I also want to change my vote on 21, SLA number 21 to no. So number 4 on SLA no, number 21 on SLA no.
okay,
Everything else is a yes. Thank you.
thank you.
Okay. Valentina, did you?
Yeah, yes to everything except for SLA 21. I'll abstain on 21.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Only thing left to do on the agenda is make a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay. Second,
Second,
Second.
second.
Triples,
Right.
quadruples.
take care, everyone.
Night.
Hey, if you're gonna go through all the formality of asking for motion in a second, you need to then really proceed and say, if there's no objection, we're adjourned. It's a decision. I'm just pointing it out.
Any
Following,
objections? Anybody want to stay here a little longer?
It can be very quick, but I'm saying if you're gonna go
Anybody
to
want to
that
stay a
much
little
effort,
longer?
okay,
Yeah,
okay.
good night,
Following
everybody.
the parliamentarian procedure. Any
Okay.
objections?
Anybody don't have a
Hearing
wife?
Hearing none, have a great night, everyone.
Good night. Bye-bye.
Happy Pride to those who celebrate.
Have a good weekend.
Bye.
Good night.